everybody, and welcome to a new season here in the Endurance E-Racing World Championship. We have entered 2021 and we are already here with our first race. It's the 12 Hours of Indianapolis this weekend, starting it all at 12 midday European time on the Saturday. Tonight it's practice, tomorrow it will be qualifying, and then of course the big day, the race, will be on the Saturday. But yeah, as I said, we've got a few hours of practice to bring you tonight, and yeah, we've got a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things to introduce you to, and yeah, we're looking forward to it. It's me, you and O'Leary bringing you through the first couple or first hour for me at least, and Ossian Barker's with me as well. We're into 2021, Ossian, and it's great to be back with the EEWC. I'm very excited to be back, and I'm very excited to kick this new season off.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be a great season. It's going to be the longest season to date in terms of driving time, in terms of not only racing that these guys have to do. I mean, who starts a season off with such a long race? Who starts a season off with 12 hours of racing at Indy in January? Well, we do. So it's going to be one wonderful spectacle, and it's going to be a great thing to witness. But of course, this is just the first practice. It's not like we're even qualifying yet. It's just a practice, so we have a chance to get to know some of these teams, get to know some of these drivers, and see what the very early predictions look like.
Yeah, we've got an awful lot of cars actually entered in terms of the series. We have 40 entered here for this race. We've got our own entry list and everything, and I've been doing a little bit of research myself, and obviously everybody at backstage, inverted commas, have been doing a little bit of looking around about which teams they fancy to maybe even take the title overall, maybe to take this race as well. So yeah, there's a lot of things to go through and talk about, and I guess the best place to start with is this circuit that we've got right now, round one. As you said, it's an interesting place to start the season. It's not often used as an endurance racing circuit of any kind, never mind multi-class as well, especially in real life. I know we've got the 8-hour race here that occasionally happens in real life, but that's not really multi-class. I know there's GT3s and GT4s, but there's not many cars, to be honest. We've got 40 cars here, 4 different classes, and it's going to be, it could be complete pandemonium, but we've got a little bit old school with the circuit, actually. It's not quite the right up-to-date circuit that we would use in terms of its layout, anyway. It's obviously still made very, very nicely, and it still looks very good, but it's not the layout that's used in real life anymore. It's a little bit slower. There's a few more fiddly bits, I would say, and it's a bit more challenging to overtake in terms of your multi-class traffic. Anyway, we're missing out that final chicane that runs onto the front straight, and this chicane here that I'm currently watching with the third place hypercar at the moment. It's a little bit longer than we have the chicane in the modern day, so it's an interesting layout choice here at Indianapolis, as well as a track choice as well.
It is, and for those who wonder, have we seen this in any other series? Yes, of course. Formula 1 used to be here from 2000 until 2006, of course. Best known for absolutely nothing going wrong during those years whatsoever. So, I hope we don't have the full 2005 experience here, but I think these tires are going to be fine. I think these drivers are going to be fine. But yeah, you mentioned it, from a multi-class experience. Usually you're able to set up the passes into the braking zones or in fast corners. Well, guess what? You don't really have any fast corners here. You have that oval turn, of course, the oval turn 1 actually, because we run clockwise here. Indies traditionally run anti-clockwise. So we have the oval turn number 1, which is the last corner of this course. And with that corner, I mean, in theory, it would be a great overtaking opportunity, but mostly it's being used for drafting, for getting the draft onto the long main straight. So really handling the traffic in those twisty bits on the opening section, on the so-called copyrighted Disney Mouse section of the track, it could be interesting.
It certainly could be, and as I mentioned, we've got 4 classes again this year to be contending with. 40 cars on the grid for this race. So let's start to go through with a few of them here that are entered into the Indianapolis race. I think the best place to start is probably with the hypercars, because obviously it's the fastest division that we have here in the GTR 24H Endurance Series for 2021, and we've got 4 cars entered for this particular race. We've got Drillers Esports with their number 10, Satellite Racing, Scuderia Brasilia, and Omicron Sim Racing with their number 80. So 4 different cars on the grid for hypercar, and 6 different rounds for them all to complete, as is the same for all of the classes. But from my personal opinion, in terms of the hypercars, the pick of the bunch has certainly got to be Drillers Esports. Obviously, they won the Le Mans race at the end of 2020. That was a commanding victory for them. I think they won by a few laps in the end to Seawolf, who came second. So for me, they are definitely the favourites to take the crown in today. And obviously, they've got 1 and 2 in practice at the moment. Henry Sinnick and Martin Hemmingson are both out there at the moment. Well, they're in the pits right now, but they are at the top of the timing sheets at the moment with their respective times. So they are looking strong, and you'd expect nothing less from them, really. Drillers are a really, really professional outfit, and they're very, very quick as well in whatever they drive, basically.
Yeah, but if they are going to be challenged, I mean, they got a couple of challengers already lined up. You got Satellite Racing, number 64, which I'm looking forward to seeing because I know them. I know that organization. I've seen them on track before, in here and in other simulations as well. And, you know, they've been out there. They've been competing in International Endurance Racing Series worldwide in the past and will compete right now as well. So Liam Rance, Ryan Nash, Ryan Walker, Marco Rodriguez and David Nichols are going to have certainly at least hopes in challenging Pins in Drillers Esports, but it's not going to be an easy task because, as you said, we still remember that Le Mans race. We still remember what Drillers did there and how they were able to perform and how they were able to really put an underline and put an exclamation mark on the wonderful year. So, you know, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see if anyone challenges them, and gonna be also interesting to see if anyone's still a little bit, you know, let's say rusty from the holiday season, because it's an interesting time of the year to be racing.
It is a very interesting. It's very early on in the year to be racing. In case you're watching this on demand at some other point in the year, it's currently the 7th of January. It's actually I guess it's the second Thursday of January, but it is of the year.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go on.
Hats off to the guy or gal who was watching the practice session of the first race of the season on demand in the middle of July. But if you are, tell us how it's going. Tell us if you're still needing to wear a mask.
Yeah, write a comment. Yeah, we'd love to know. To be honest, write a comment. You know, it'd be nice. But yeah, to get into the point, it's very, very, or your point that you just made earlier on. It's very, very early on in the year, and people won't have touched their simulators for a little while over the Christmas break. Obviously, things are a little bit different this year. I guess you got a little bit more time on your hands, a little bit more time to be inside, not so much family to see, I guess, over the Christmas period and New Year kind of celebrations as well. Not quite so much of that this year, but I think your rusty point still not that it's a rusty point, but the point about being rusty is a good one, because people won't quite be used to what they're dealing with here, and also a bit of a Le Mans hangover, I'm going to call it, really. With this, either having complete success from Le Mans, like you have with Drillers Esports and all the other respective class winners from Le Mans, and you just stroll into this race thinking you'll win easily. You can be a little bit overconfident sometimes when you actually take a victory, so we'll see if there are any Le Mans hangovers, but also some old rivalries kind of resurface, and maybe even some teams who have improved, because we have got a lot of returning teams. We've got a lot of new teams, but we've got a lot of returning teams as well, and so yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how those who did well kind of develop, to see if they stay there, and if those who are further towards the back, see if they can maybe jump themselves up a little bit compared to where they were about 3 months ago.
Those are all very interesting points, and those are all things we have to consider. And I guess the only way to find out is to watch these races and watch these storylines develop over the course of the season. Now, of course, 4 teams in the hypercar class. We got the Pin Sim Drillers, as you mentioned, Scuderia Basilea, Satellite Racing, and Omicron Sim Racing. Those guys all competing here. Interestingly, the amount of drivers you got for the 65 Scuderia Basilea. I love that name, by the way. They only got 3 drivers, and then you got the Satellite Racing and Omicron Sim Racing with 5 drivers. So, and Drillers with 4. So the amount of drivers changing, but 3 to 5, even 6. Anything is applicable. I mean, you can run 3 drivers, you can run 4 drivers, you can run 5 drivers. But doing a 24-hour event with 3 drivers, it can be a little bit tough. I've seen it done even with 2 drivers. And of course, those couple of crazy guys doing charity events, driving 24 hours solo. But 2 drivers, I've seen a competitive run. 3 drivers, but it's still going to be rough. Ideally, you want 4 or 5. So I definitely would give an advantage to guys who have 4 or 5 drivers in those longer events. But I guess we shall see. We shall see.
Yeah, we certainly will. You speak of people doing 24-hour races alone. Well, case in point exactly is Alvaro in Chelsea now drives for the number 27 Simulator Esports, and he's found himself some teammates as well, because at Le Mans he did the whole 24 hours completely on his own, to my knowledge, or he spoke to us after the race. Remarkably, he was there for about an hour after the race waiting to talk to us, and so he was up for a very, very long time on that day, driving for a very long time as well, but he's got himself some teammates now. It's an all-Spanish team, the Simulator Esports, with Andreas Asayen and Francisco Torres as well, who we've seen in the Sprint Series in the past. They're going to be driving a GT3 car throughout this particular event. We'll see if Alvaro in Chelsea actually gets out of the car this time, because he's been known to staying there for a whole 24 hours. But it's interesting you mentioned about the 3, 4 and 5 driver kind of differences we have here. I can't see it playing too much of a role in a 12-hour race. You're right, in the 24-hour races they do play more of a factor, but especially interesting to me is the Omicron Sim Racing team. They've got their drivers from very different areas of the world, in different countries. Got Thomas Garcia, the team founder, he's a Spanish driver. Magnus Kurup is Danish, and we've got out there at the moment, or out there he was a minute ago anyway, he still is actually, Patrick Skilvasi is Hungarian, and then they've got John Nelson as well, who's from America, which is going to really help them out. Having not only from different countries, but having drivers from different continents really it's kind of textbook 24-hour planning, really, isn't it, to have drivers from different continents?
Yeah, it is. I was just about to get her, and I know we were talking about this, and we will talk about this during the 24-hour races, because at some point we do need to fill the gaps, and it's of course the traditional 24-hour talking point is that, hey, it's a 24-hour race. You know what? 24 hours, it means a full day. It's a long time. And then some of the viewers will be like, tell us something new. But what people don't consider is the nationality of the drivers and the importance of having people who don't need to adjust their sleep schedule, because you want to be as awake as possible. And if you have like one American guy who can be awake when the Europeans start to get a little bit sleepy, and ideally you'd want a guy from somewhere like Australia as well. You want that one Australian guy who can take over the reins when the American guy is going to sleep, and then they can hand it over right to Europeans. So it's a kind of layout which is ideal for racing, but of course a lot of teams are just homogeneous, single country, single language, single nation teams. We got a lot of Danish teams, for example, here, with only Danish drivers, and they are going to be at a slight disadvantage come the 24-hour race. But I also know that these organizations are very professional, and they have already decided who's going to be doing the night driving, who's going to be doing the graveyard shift. And of course, if your race ends on the first hour, you don't need to worry about that.
No, because you'll be in the graveyard if you're out after the first hour. But yeah, we do have quite a few single nation teams here. I guess the most successful I've seen of those is that Musto GD Esports actually won the GTE Championship last year. Don't forget, beating out Simply Race in the end by 33 points, which was not quite the closest winning margin of any championship, but it was still a very good performance from the 53 Musto GD Esports car, and they're out here actually looking to defend their title here in this season. Just going to see if we've actually got them in here today. I don't think we have. I've not seen them out there just yet, so they may come out a little bit later on. But you're absolutely right. These single nation teams are going to have it a little bit more difficult in these 24-hour races, you would expect, of which we have 2 of, by the way, in this season. So the first 4 races are in fact 12 hours. We go to Indianapolis first, obviously, we're already here. We've got Sebring as well next month in February. Then in March we've got the 12 hours of Silverstone, and then we've got round 4 at some point in the summer. I think it's June kind of time, and I can't quite remember where it is, the other 12-hour race.
25th, 26th of June, and we got it at Nürburgring.
Oh yeah, we're returning to the Nürburgring for round 4, and then we've got the 24 hours of Spa, heading towards late summer, early autumn, and then we have the classic finale at Le Mans, where hopefully the plan is to have everybody together and do it as a LAN event as normal. Obviously, that comes with the obvious caveat that every event that has been organised since March 2020 comes with. But yes, that's the idea, that's the plan, and it would be nice to indeed complete that. But it's a nice calendar. I quite like it, actually. We did have all of those 24-hour races. We had 6 24-hour races. It's been scaled back to 2, but I can't say it's a bad calendar whatsoever. There's some very, very nice tracks on there, and I'm especially looking forward to the 24 hours of Spa, I have to say. It's a new track added to our Factor 2, and it's a very, very nice track as well. Real fan favourite.
Yeah, it is, and Spa-Francorchamps, lovely circuit, lovely place. As you said, a real fan favorite, one of the most legendary tracks in the world. Actually, would you place it on your top 3? If you had to, let's change the topic a little bit. Let's get spicy here with 21 minutes in. We're full blackjack into this broadcast, might as well. So, 21 minutes in. What's your top 3 if you had to name the most legendary racing circuits in the world?
I hope you in the world. I hope you don't make me pick a 1, 2, 3 and make them go in order here, because that would be harsh. But certainly for a top 3, I would put Spa in my top 3 actually. If I was to choose, I would go for Bathurst as well in that top 3, and then for a third. As I've just seen someone have a big spin there in one of the Ferraris. Oh, and there's actually 2 cars off there with the LMP2 because he's just stopped. Because I guess he feels a little bit bad that he's just spun someone out. But yeah, getting back to that, Spa, Bathurst, and I think I would have to, at a push, go for Le Mans. But the third one is very much up for debate, personally.
It is, because I was waiting to hear Nürburgring. But the thing is, you have to specify, do we mean the modern GP circuit or do we mean Nürburgring in general? And also, as a Brit, I'm surprised Silverstone was not in there.
True. Yeah, I forgot about Silverstone. Well, I didn't forget about it, but...
Clip that.
Well, I know I am British and everything, but it is 3 hours away from me. It's not exactly... It's not exactly... it's not exactly local to me, let's say. It's still 3 hours away, even though I do live in the right country. It's still quite a long way away. But as I said, that third one is very much up for grabs. You could throw Nürburgring, Le Mans, Silverstone, all 3. I'd be quite happy to have any of those 3 and probably more in that third spot, to be honest.
Yeah, I would say racing tracks. I would put Nürburgring in there, obviously. I would even say it's number 2 on my list if I had to go in numerical order. number 3, I'm debating between Spa and Silverstone, but ultimately I'm putting Spa in there because it's got a longer history, and Silverstone is really mostly known as the inaugural Formula One, where the inaugural Formula One race took place in, I think it was 13th of July in 1950. I always forget this is May or July, but it's either or. It's either or in 1950. So, you know, I wouldn't put Silverstone in there, certainly in top 5, not in top 3. So Nürburgring, and then I would put Spa, and then I would put... it's a hard choice, but I think I have to go for Le Mans here. Just, you know, you have to go for Le Mans because many talk about endurance racing. You got the bridesmaids, you got the legendary events, you got the bridesmaids like you can debate between Nürburgring, you can debate between Sebring or even Daytona. For example, you can drop that in there as well. But, you know, the win is always going to be Le Mans.
Yeah, in terms of what do you think of first, it's certainly Le Mans. I do like the excitement because it's at the start of the year and everybody's quite starved of I know this is not going to be the case particularly this year, but everyone's normally quite starved of motorsport by the time Daytona rolls around, so I do actually like that race particularly, but to drive, it's not the best circuit in the world, let's be honest. It is a roval after all. I'm not saying all rovals are bad, but you know, it's not that exciting.
Yeah, I was about to say, we're at Indy, you're supposed to promote the event and all.
I am, yes. I'm not saying all rovers are boring, but some, you know, some need to have a good look at themselves, really. But yeah, don't you notice as well, by the way, that while we were just naming those and like throwing those tracks around, that most of the tracks we were mentioning are on this calendar for the EEWC in 2021. So that's case in point, really, of what a good track selection it's been, and what a good calendar we've got on our hands here this season.
Yeah, that's really something to think about, something to consider as well. I mean, when you look at the list of events we got this season, I know you started listing them already, but we're at Indianapolis, we're at Indy, then we go to Silverstone, then we go to Sebring, we got Nürburgring, we got Spa, and we ended at Le Mans. There are no ugly ducklings here. It's like usually when you talk about racetracks, when you talk about places to go racing, places to have a racing, you have to, like sometimes every calendar has that ugly duckling usually. You have the less than stellar racetracks. I'm not naming any names, but you usually have the less than stellar. But I'm really having difficult time here because none of those names aren't like immediately recognizable by name value only.
Yeah, absolutely. There's not one race on the calendar that I'm not looking forward to this season, and that is certainly a great thing for us all. I hope you will join us for all of the races that we have here this season. We also got the Sprint Series that will be going on alongside this as well on Wednesday nights, fortnightly as well. So yeah, make sure you tune in for those great events as well on a set of course competitive area, of course. But moving back to this ever so slightly here with the 12 Hours of Indianapolis, going to be kicking off Saturday at midday European time, 11 o'clock in the UK and 1 p.m. if you're in Finland like Austin is, because you're ahead of everyone else and obviously working out for your own time zone, because then it gets a little bit difficult. Yeah, we'll be live of course with the whole 12 hours and we've got pretty much all of the commentary crew. I believe that the only people who are not here, Alex Skinner is I don't think going to be here. I don't think Cam Rogers is going to be here either, but everybody else, including our new recruit,
I was about to say, we got a new guy.
Here, yeah.
We got another Alex. Never enough of Alexes. We got Alex Goldschmidt here joining us, the new commentator, and it's going to be very exciting to hear him. I was going to say see him, but I'm not sure if we can promise that, but at least hear him. Hear his voice out there, hear him talking on the microphone. Great guy, a bit of experience under his belt as well, and promises to be, well, I can promise that going by the name alone, he speaks better English than me. Which is not a high bar, but you know, here you go.
Well, for a Finnish person, you do very well. To be fair, to commentate from another language is very difficult. I can't speak any other language at all. I can't speak a word of Finnish. I can't even say hi. So there you go.
I can teach you.
Yeah, I thought you might be able to.
Hey,
Oh, I remember now. I remember from when I went because the woman told us while we were there, and we absolutely fell about laughing when she told us that. We were expecting it to, so it was very complicated, but it was just that, and yeah, we were amazed. But there you go, the wonder of languages. They're slightly weird, as I've nearly witnessed a crash on the front straight there with one of the GT3 cars, the kind of older generation McLaren, with the new Corvette that we've got going at the moment. Very nice livery as well, by the way, blue and white. Can't tell you which car that is because I can't see the number board because he's going side by side everywhere with the leader in GT3 at the moment. But yeah, very exciting to see the new Corvette. I think it's worth talking about it as well. We do have the option for these guys to actually select 2 new cars for this season compared to last. We've obviously got more new cars on the grid than that because teams have switched up their options and they've decided to change cars and whatever, but we've got some great updates with our Factor 2 this last couple of months. They've absolutely knocked it out of the park in the end of 2020 for me at least, for the updates in terms of bringing in new cars. We've got the new Corvette, which is obviously on your screen. It was on screen a moment ago, and we also have the Ligier LMP2. I don't believe we've got one on the show here today, but that's still being added to our Factor 2, and yeah, as I said, they've absolutely knocked it out of the park with that last update, and it's great to see those new cars in the equation with this simulation. Yes, they are. We're just getting rid of one of the team's images. They're on their side, so it looks like they're lying down in their pit. And also, by the way, I was looking at this earlier. Marcel Chusik looks incredibly small compared to the rest of his team. I'm not sure if that's some kind of joke they're playing on him, but yeah, somebody's made Marcel Chusik look very, very small. I'm sure he's not like that in real life, but anyway,
it's good for racing.
It is, yeah, much lighter, but no, I'm sure he's not pleased.
Of sim racing.
Yes, yeah, he is a little bit. Driving for Varga, by the way, in case you didn't know, that's the LMP2. One of the favourites to actually take LMP2 are Varga. So yeah, very much looking forward to watching them throughout the next rounds. The 117 got Daniel Visner, Yuri Toman, Marcel Chinzik, as we mentioned, and Michał Schmiedl as well. So for me, that is one of the strongest teams. And actually, when I was looking over this earlier, I thought there was actually no teams that I could really see to challenge them. But then I came across a bit of a dark horse, really, in the form of the Drillers eSport. I know it's not really a dark horse because they won Le Mans, and that's not, you don't do that by accident. But no. You know, I didn't immediately underline Drillers, but then when looking into them a little bit more, I decided that it's probably going to be between Varga and Drillers. I think that those two are going to be the strongest teams throughout this season.
I think you might be right. I think you might be right because Varga, obviously they got a great squad. You mentioned no real weaknesses, but Drillers, it's Drillers. You don't really, you know, you can't overlook Drillers esports. You can't overlook it at all. They got that great organization, a lot of things behind them, a lot of experience behind them, and the desire to win. I mean, you see them here, their hypercar, of course, you know, putting in the greatest lap times right from the get-go, right from the first practice, despite, as you mentioned, winning Le Mans. And then their LMP2 squad, they got a lot of great drivers. There are a lot of fast drivers, a lot of experienced drivers as well, learning even more. And what I do like about them is that there's not a huge turnout in their roster. When you look at the Drillers eSport roster, you look at them and you see pretty much the same names year after year. One guy might change here, the other guy might change there, but there's not a huge turnout, and that builds consistency. Because, you know, over the course of the year, when you practice as much as these guys do, you might have some individuals clashing with each other, maybe in a competitive environment. That happens. So I've seen that with some teams. I've certainly been in a situation where I don't get along with someone, and it even though you want to win for the team, it's kind of hard to go all in, wake up early hours of the morning, dedicate a lot of your free time to sim racing, to practicing when you just don't get along with someone. So from the sounds of it, they're doing pretty well inside the team, inside the cockpit, sharing the car pretty well, and that pretty much directly translates to success because you can build on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think from the conversations I've had with them and from the interactions I've had with them, it looks like a very, very well... The atmosphere inside that team looks very nice and very good and very relaxed, but also serious when it needs to be, and obviously very successful as well in the last few moments. I believe they're entirely managed by... Well, maybe not entirely, but at least... managed in some form by Joey Vrolik, who's their manager, I think. You'll remember maybe from the Le Mans race, from the dancing in the background with Yusuf and Alex. Joey he was completely raving on his own there in the background, and it was quite amusing. Yeah, that just shows to me really that, and from the interviews that we had with them throughout that race, it's a very relaxed team, and they all appreciate each other, they all like each other, but they're all so they can get serious at the right time. And I think the consistency point that you made is really apparent in this team. I mean, guys like Vitas Andonovski and Henry Sinek in the hypercar are just consistency personified, really. They're very, very steady drivers indeed, and they've been here before. Andonovski was part of the Le Mans winning team last year. Henry Sinek has been at GTR and driving in GTR for a good while now. He even won 24-hour races back as far as only 2 years ago, but 2019 he was winning races at the likes of Spa here in GTR. So it's a very successful team, and we're expecting to see something similar from them here today and throughout the season as well. It's just looking really who can challenge them, and I think that what Varga are going to do exactly that in LMP2. There's also other names who can do that, but the reason I mentioned Varga is kind of an interesting thing that I've just noticed here. Now, obviously you can see it's completely dry out there on the circuit now. It's dark, but these conditions are pretty normal. But the fact that we've only got Yuri Toman 5 tenths away from Martin Hemmingsen, despite the fact they're in different cars, different classes of car, shows to me that the pace difference between the hypercars and LMP2s is really small around here. It's small normally, but around this circuit, wow, it's very, very small indeed.
It is, and you can kind of get that with the hypercars and with the LMP2s. Of course, LMP2s a little bit slower on straight line usually, but they also have that downforce, they have that light build advantage. They are very light cars, very aerodynamic cars, so I would take that with a pinch of salt, because it's still the first practice. It's still something we have to look and see over the weekend, see in the qualifying maybe, the qualifying times, how will they differ from each other. But if we only truly see a half a second between those, then when you look at the LMP2 field, you see so many great drivers, great teams in the field, hypercars too, but maybe some, we only got 4 teams in the hypercar class. I'm saying only, those are of course expensive cars, expensive to buy, expensive to run, but maybe at some point you will see some LMP2s running head-to-head with the hypercars, for overall position, and that's gonna throw a real wrench in the works.
Yeah, certainly if it rains. I can't imagine that's going to happen here at Indianapolis, because I've just checked the weather for the weekend, and at the moment it looks cloudy today, cloudy tomorrow, and even sunny on Saturday. Not exactly getting up to very high in terms of degrees. If you're actually there, you definitely need a coat or three, because it's very, very cold. But it's the Northern Hemisphere in winter. I don't know what else you'd expect, but temperatures are going to be low, but at least it's going to be dry for these guys, and that is going to keep the hypercars just ahead of those LMP2s, and we are expecting them to beat them outright, of course. That's the idea, but you never know what's going to happen throughout a race. I think So one thing we haven't talked about yet is the GTE category. We've kind of touched on Hypercar, GT3, LMP2 as well, but GTE is a very exciting category, certainly to me anyway. I think this is going to be a very competitive category. Obviously you've got the reigning champions, the defending champions, Musto GD Esports, the only team that can actually defend their title in the same class that they actually got a title, because all the others have either not returned or moved into a different class. Teams like Team Viaductin, who won the Hypercar class last year, have moved over to GTE as well. The GT3 champions have moved into GTE as well. That's the DIS SR Lab car, with a load of their very, very experienced drivers. We've got other great teams like OneMove, who were very strong in LMP2 last year. They've moved down to GTE. You've got also World of Sim Racing, who are going to be a force to be reckoned with. HM Engineering, the list goes on. Juicy's Motorsport Club. It is hard it's like trying to hit the bullseye of a dartboard with your eyes closed, trying to pick the winner of GTE, because it is just incredibly close. The field, the spread of the class in that field is absolutely unbelievable, and we're expecting some fantastic racing from that category.
Certainly. So anyway, who's your pick for the win?
I knew you were going to do that. Oh, it's very, very difficult. And I kind of want to see how the first race goes before I say that, but I won't do that, because that is cheating, to be fair. So I can't do that. What I will get
until qualifying. We got until qualifying. Guys.
Okay. Well, I haven't got that long, to be honest, because I can't stay until the end of practice, so I've got to make my decision pretty quickly. But yes, it's very, very competitive, and it's difficult to choose. To be honest, I think on season-long consistency, and for that reason alone, I would go for the number 51 World of Sim Racing Izone Performance car. Those guys know each other very, very well. They drive together a lot in a lot of different series, not just in GTR, all over R-Factor 2 really, in endurance, even in more kind of sprint GT formats, but they really drive an awful lot together. They've got Jordi San Andres, Alvaro Martinez, Jose Berenguer, Sol Sanchez and Blaise Mesk. Pick a weak link out of that, because those guys are extremely well bonded, extremely well put together, and I think for season-long consistency they are going to take the overall.
That's an interesting take, because I would say, I mean, you got two Musto teams they have to beat, you got the ID guys they have to beat, Juices guys they have to beat. As you said, the list goes on, OneMove as well. One team I would pick as a dark horse. I wouldn't say they're my pick for the winner, but stay tuned for the number 78 Per B Cars Esport, Nicky Ciprian, Jasper Lysmut, and those guys who we are just hearing are not competing, so there goes my dark horse.
That goes out the bin, or into the bin, excuse me.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, okay. But yeah. Yeah, we're just hearing that we're getting it. The reason we stopped talking is because producer Peter is speaking in our ear. They rent out a place to do this all together at the same venue, but it's closed down unfortunately due to COVID restrictions, so they can't compete for the moment. I don't know if they'll return later or what's going to happen with that, but they're not here for Indianapolis at the very least.
Yeah, the thing why I mentioned them even, the 78, Nicky Ciprian, Jasper Lysholt, Martin Kampfner, Kasper Henningsen, is that Kasper Henningsen. He's of course known for being a driver for Burst Esports, so he's very fast, and having him in that team and having that team competing could have been a real dark horse, but it's a shame we're not getting them. So, Musto, they've been traditionally fast, they've been traditionally right there for the win, but season-long consistency. I would say I agree with you normally, like it would be cheating to pick the same team, and I won't, but season-long consistency, I just don't know if they have it. So I'm gonna say OneMove, because they won in Matsusaka last year. They got couple of great guys. Mathieu de Koop. I mean, I remember going, holy cow, over Mathieu de Koop's pace last season. Roy Mink as well, Gilles Moss and Ludovic Ferrut and Gregory Lejeune as well. Those guys, no slouches. So I think they're going to be that number 31, One Movie Sports. I think they're going to be a real force to be reckoned with. But the beautiful thing is we just don't know yet. There's going to be a lot of great teams in that class, and I don't think it's going to be a case of one team winning every event or one team being, head and shoulders above the rest. I think it's going to be more like everybody shaved bald and it's one hair separating them.
Yeah, I think I think you're absolutely right about that. It's an interesting team one move actually. They've moved down from LMP2, of course. The Matsusaka win you mentioned, of course, was in LMP2 last year when they were driving that car. So the reason I know they're a very strong team, and I totally agree with what you're saying about their drivers and their lineup and everything like that. But I just don't know if they're going to be accustomed to their car, the change in their car quickly enough to challenge. You can't get left behind in that class. You cannot get left behind in GT. If you start badly, then it's going to be so difficult to recover. You've got to start well, and I don't know if they're going to be able to start off well enough to challenge for. I could be proven wrong, as I have been before many times, but I just don't know about their team. It's an interesting way they've been kind of moulded together as well, because from what I see, really, they've got 5 drivers, but a couple of pairs who drive together a lot are kind of been moulded together into the same team. So Mathieu de Koop and Roy de Munich have both been in GTR before. They've been here for quite a while. They do a lot of driving here, but they also do quite a lot of driving just them two in a lot of different places. So they know each other pretty well. They know what to expect from each other. And also Ludovic Ferrut and Gregory Richon also drive a lot together as well on that kind of on their own, on their separate things. So this team's kind of been moulded together, and with the addition of Guillaume Mas as well, they could produce a very good team, and they could also produce a few surprises. They're certainly a good pick as well. But you've literally got 14 cars here today. I think 14 good picks as well for the race win. I also want to give a mention to the GT3 champions from last year, DIS SR Lab, who have got 3 drivers here. Andy Kurtzen, Yannick Gotthardsson and Kasper Hedegaard have been driving a very long time, and sim racing a very long time. Kurtzen started back in 2005. Gotthardsson started before I was born, which is outrageous. Well, it's not outrageous really, because it's only a few months ago, but you know what I mean. Yeah, exactly. That's a long time. And Kasper Hedegaard has been here. He's been not only sim racing for a very long time, he's been involved in GTR 24H for a very long time as well, because he won, I believe, this is on their website by the way, I think they mean the LAN event when they say this, they won the races at Le Mans in 2009 and 2010 with him driving, so he's been here for a very long time as well. I think the experience of those guys is going to account for a lot.
I'm gonna unmute myself because I gotta come up with some details on Kasper as well. He was actually one of the original instigators of GTR 24H. He was together with a guy called Alex Fredrickson, the 2 guys that arranged the first GTR 24H in 2007.
That's very interesting. That's actually some very interesting information. Thank you for that.
So, no problem. Alex Fredrickson is deeply involved in lower class formula racing in Denmark and has been managing his own team as well. And he's been deeply in Danish motorsport in a lot of various classes.
Yeah, and when you mention Danish motorsports, it's not something people usually think of first and foremost, like Danish motorsport. It might be, a little bit weird to people who only know motorsports basically from Formula One or our American viewers who might know NASCAR and IndyCar better. But Danes have a real strong pedigree in endurance racing, which is, I think, your champ, if I'm not mistaken, Peter.
I think that part of it started with in 1991 with John Nilsson winning the Le Mans race with the Jaguar team. That sparked a lot of interest then, but then of course it's the king of Le Mans, Tom Christensen, who has moved all focus, I think, to Le Mans.
can imagine it certainly took off when you've got someone so successful. It's hardly a surprise that it's taken off. It's quite apparent actually here in R Factor 2 endurance racing. There's a lot of Danish people around, especially in DTR 25. It's not a bad thing, by the way. I'm not saying that, but no, there's a lot of all Danish teams here, and yeah, it's good to see them all still here, despite the fact that it's been going through a few changes in the last few years. DTR getting more and more teams in, especially throughout the back end of 2020, loads of teams for Le Mans, but it's kind of retained its Danish core this season, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. Danish cars are good, and they are a delicious dessert. By the way, did you know that the Danish pastry is actually not from Denmark?
No, I didn't. But I don't really like them anyway. I can't have them actually. Well, not the normal ones anyway. But no, it's no, I didn't actually. That completely defeats the object, I thought. But
yeah, the Great Dane isn't from Denmark either. But it's all right. You guys still have Legos.
So I know the Danish pastry is from Austria, but the Great Dane is from where? The dog?
I think it's from Germany. I would need to check, but I know it's definitely not from Denmark.
I don't know why you call it a Great Dane then. If I'm honest, it's not a Great or maybe a Great German doesn't sound too good to the English, but.
Yeah, can we start a petition to rename the Great Dane to me and Tom Christensen?
I don't think that's going to go through.
Not a dog, but fetches very fast.
Well, yeah, it would.
Well, the Germans already got the German sheepdog, so that's kind of already the German dog.
Yeah, true. The German Shepherd as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, the same thing, right. Shepherd, right, yeah.
Which in Danish is called a Schäfer.
Yeah, I think we call it Schäfer sometimes in Finnish as well. And I think the Germans might call it that too. I'm not sure. But so the German Shepherd, and they got the Dachshund as well, the sausage.
Oh, the very small one, yeah. We've got completely sidetracked here talking about dogs.
Yeah.
But there you go. It happens from time to time. I'm sure it'll happen again at some point over this weekend, because yeah, we've got a lot of time to kind of go through everything here and watch what's going out there on the circuit. But I'll just update you one last time on the leaders in each class in terms of this practice session that we've got going on at the moment. I know we're just talking generally about the season ahead, but in this session at the moment, Henry Sinnick is currently the top of the standings with a 1 minute 19.0. He's leading by about a tenth. In LMP2, Yuri Toman is leading by actually 6/10 to Roland Zux, who is in second place in the LMP2 category. In GTE, I'm trying to find them because they're so far down the order, because there's so many cars out there at the moment. We've got quite a lot of them. Yes, is it?
Yeah, it is GT3. Zolt Klebeck for
yes.
Racing.
Yeah, it is. I've just found. Yeah, he's quite far removed from the rest of them actually on the timing screen at the moment. He's got 3 TEs between him and the rest of the GT, or some of the rest of the GT3 field. So those two classes are quite mixed. And in GTE we have Volante Racing 1 and 2 actually, with Pauli Ahonen and Donna Ploden currently at the top. And funny we should mention GTE again. We were saying what a great class it is. We were mentioning all of the cars that we expect to run well. We didn't once mention the now leaders in this practice session.
No, but Volante Racing, I mean, they got the biggest advantage that you can have in racing, especially that number 66 bet, because when you look at who's leading the class, Pauli Ahonen, well, he's Finnish. So there you go.
Yeah, that is true. There's.
I have to. I have to. Always, when you have to pick a favorite, if you want to win, get a Finn.
If you want to win, I like that. That is good. I wish, I bet other countries wishing the same would rhyme for them, but I'm afraid it only works in Finland, which says it already, doesn't it? But yeah, we've got a lot of cars out there on the circuit. Practice still ongoing. I'm going to have to sign off, unfortunately, for the moment. I'll be back tomorrow with the start of qualifying, and I believe we'll have some of the other guys there as well. I'll leave you with in the capable hands of Ossian and maybe Peter as well for a little bit. Nick might be joining. Yusuf will be here soon as well. So yeah, I'm sure you'll survive without me. But yeah, this is me signing off for now. I'll see you all tomorrow and of course for the main race on Saturday as well. But it's been a pleasure, and I'll be back very soon.
Yes, he will be. We'll make sure of that. Oh, trust me, we can hunt him down. It's 2021. So, that's Leon O'Leary signing off, and that leaves me with Peter Munkholm as well, occasionally talking when he is not busy looking at the cameras.
I'm looking at the cameras, looking at timing and everything, got the timing tower up and working in. We've done some changes that made it possible to show advanced data from the teams on the website. It seems that we're getting so much traffic right now that the database is being completely overwhelmed by requests right now. Can I say we're streaming now to, I think, about 15 different platforms. Now some of them are live, some of them are going to show the show at a later date because we sent the recorded material as well. But yeah, I can't even remember the list of all the channels, but it's big. That's been the focus of John for the last year or so. He's gotten some help in trying to set up all those channels. So yeah, hi to all the new viewers. Hello.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, thanks for being here. And thanks for watching as well, tuning in the first practice session of Endurance E-Racing World Championship 2021, of course. It's gonna take a while to get used to saying 2021 once again, because we're so used to it being 2020 or 2019, and now it's 2021, so we're gonna make a couple of mishaps with that probably, but let's hope it all goes smoothly, it all goes winningly. Speaking of country rhymes and winning, if you want to win, get a film, but I think it's right with Jon doing such a great job. If you want fame, get a day.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I like that. Caution.
Oh, really?
Yeah, fame really reminds me mostly of bad TV shows.
But Flashdance was actually a good movie. Remember that song?
I don't know. No, and I didn't. I was. I think I was sleeping when the whole jamming thing was going on during the Le Mans race as well. I think my other me was here controlling the editing table.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when you have to, people often, briefly, we're going back to the racing soon, don't worry, but briefly just mentioning, we always talk about how tiring it is for the drivers, 24 hours of racing, but I think big credits to Peter, who was awake for, I think it was 45 hours or something crazy like that, 30 hours, during at least the 2019 Live LAN event, and when you have time to maybe sleep 5 or 10 minutes at a time, then it's pretty hard. So of course, big hats off to you, and you can get a little bit zoned out sometimes when you do that. But it's all right. We do it all for the drivers. We do it all to put off a great broadcast and put up a great adventure and a great championship for these guys to compete in as well. So, and I must say it's great to see such a high amount of drivers, such a high amount of teams out there already in the first practice session.
Yeah, that's great, and I really want to thank the teams for showing up for this practice session. It is just for fun. And I also want to thank the teams for submitting all the data that they actually did on the drivers. We've got images of all the drivers, or at least most of the drivers by now. We've got all the work the teams did with the really great liveries. yeah, there's so much new stuff coming this season, and this race is only the beginning of it. And what we have set up right now for this evening is also only the beginning of what will be available for the rest of the weekend. So yeah, look forward to lots of extra stuff showing up. If it works, maybe go to timing.dtr24h.org. You'll find in the timing some extra features now. So if the teams did actually fill out stuff like their Facebook pages, there'll be a little Facebook F icon by their name. You can click on that and go to their Facebook page. You can find teams that have YouTube channels as well. Maybe they're streaming on Twitch. All of that stuff will be linked directly from the timing sheets. So yeah, have a look in there. There's also the spotter guide, so gtr24h.org/spotter guide and one, where you can, and all in one, no spaces or dashes or anything, just plain spotter guide. There's images of all the cars in there, all the drivers, driver names, everything you need to follow the race properly. There's links to the team's various radio channels as well, because we're actually broadcasting all the live radio communication on internet radio. You can find the links for these internet radio channels both in the spotter guide, and you can find them by clicking the little radio tower icon in the timing sheets. So lots of ways to follow the racing, lots of ways to discover your favorite team and follow them.
And let us know who your favorite team is, fly those colors, and let us know who you are cheering for, because that's one of those great things to see, people reacting as well to the race live, people watching, cheering for their team, tuning in. It's long events, like we got 12-hour race coming in this weekend on this Saturday. It's just, it's like what? It's less than 48 hours and we already have a pretty good idea of who's in control of the first race, or indeed don't have, because it's going to be still some racing to go. So, we're going to be seeing a lot of storylines developing, and you can be there with your team right from the start, discover your favorite driver, and there's multiple ways to discover it. If you tune into their radio communications, you can find out the guy with the best communications, the funniest jokes, the funniest accent, maybe, who knows. Or you can just look at their pictures and see who's the cutest. That's going to be a tough competition. Or you can look at the on-track action and see who is the most daring driver, who is the guy who puts off the nicest overtakes, who can really put the track alight, set the track alight with fastest lap times. Or the smart guys, the consistent guys. I think those are always underrated. The guys that can they're maybe a couple of tenths off the pace on their fastest lap, but they can put in that lap time. They're like the Excel sheet of drivers. They just have a lap time and they hit the target lap after lap after lap after lap after lap, because that's what endurance racing is all about. So whatever your favorite type of driver is and your favorite type of team is, and whatever is your reason for being a fan, then cheer for them, I guess. Something's funny.
Yeah, I just saw some LMP2 car do a handbrake turn in the pit lane in front of the 117 car garage. That was strange. Anyway, if you want to show us what you're doing out there, whatever fun you're having while watching the race, best way to have us notice is Twitter, using the hashtag GTR24H.
Yes, indeed. Twitter can actually be used for good as well.
Yeah, not only starting riots, but it can actually be
careful. Oh, well, let's see who's gonna steal a podium on this race on Saturday, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's not decided yet. Here's the only comment I have on that one.
Yeah, so, Indianapolis. Talking from behind the scenes, Peter, since we have a chance to talk to you on air, which is something we don't get to do that often. Indy, why is Indy starting the season, actually?
I think we all wanted something that resembled Daytona, but we are sort of limited in track choices because we have to run only official ISI or Studio 397 content. So the closest thing we could get was the 2007 version of Indianapolis because of the long straight. Of course, here we got the bank corner all the way through.
Okay, that's fair enough. And I mean, it's close enough to Indy, because Indy, well, you got some longer straights on Indy, it's a little bit faster, but otherwise, it's close enough. You got that infield straight that kind of simulates the straight you got on Daytona coming to the bus stop, and then you got that long main straight. Only here you got only one banked corner instead of 3 that you run on Daytona, actually. So I think it's close enough, and I think it's a great choice and a track you don't see too often. But as we talked with Ewan earlier, it's a track that, you know, it's a really unique challenge for these drivers, and setup-wise as well, because we mentioned that there's a lot of drivers who have changed classes, a lot of teams who have new classes. You go from LMP2 car to a GDE machine, which, while still it has some aerodynamics, it's a completely different ballgame going from what is basically an open-wheeler to what is basically a GD car. And then you got Indy, the technical mastery of Indy, which is really demanding from a mechanical grip standpoint, from a corner technique standpoint. So a lot of drivers really, they got thrown into the deep end here, I think.
I was doing some of the work with putting lights on the track to make it actually raceable during the night, because otherwise it would just be completely dark. But I had to do some practice runs in order to get the track under my skin so I could do some proper laps as well. And I actually found it quite challenging. The amount of time you can lose in those 2 hairpins if you don't have the proper setup, if you don't make the car steer hard enough through those 2 corners. It's really tough. Those are really, really tough corners. I think that's something that will actually make or break a good lap here, is how fast you can be through those 2 kind of like hairpin corners right after each other.
I agree with you. Absolutely. Like people always talk about
188 rolling backwards on the front straight. That's not good. You need to stop rolling, buddy, or you'll get penalized.
Well, maybe he's getting those Limp Bizkit early 2000s vibes.
Yeah, I think he had a spin in like the run-up corner, and then there's nowhere where you can turn around, so he just wants to drive backwards until the end of the pit lane wall. That might have been it.
So turns out that the hairpins are not the only technical section of the track, but you also need to watch out on the straights.
Yeah, when you come out of the last corner before the start-finish straight, it seems like the wall on your left is suddenly moving in on you. So there's suddenly less room than there actually were in the corner. So it seems like the outside of the corner is like tightening slightly when you get to the end of the corner. That's something that came as a surprise to me when I was racing other cars on the track.
Yeah, it can feel that way in many circuits, and it can feel that way especially in a track that is so wide as Indy is. People often, like, you can see it in pictures certainly, but it is a wide circuit, and it is the kind of circuit that you can easily get disorientated in, because we as racers, we are used to tracks like Spa or Nürburgring, where you have natural features and where you have clear brake markers for each and every corner, so you can pick that bit of road, or you can pick an individual tree or a wall somewhere. But when you go to the Indy infield, it is very technically challenging, but it feels easy because it's flat and you got a lot of room in each and every corner, so it can be really disorientating.
Yeah. I was trying to think of a track that I've had this issue with as well. One of the toughest tracks for me to learn when I was starting in sim racing, that's all the way back in Sports Car GT in 1999 or something like that, was their Sebring version in the Sports Car GT. Just seemed like a world of grey, you know.
Yeah,
everything was just all the time grey, a little bit of grass here, a little bit of grass there, and then just grey and walls. That was disorienting to me in the beginning, but yeah.
Sebring is anyway, because Sebring is so bumpy and it's gonna be tricky, and we're gonna be there in a couple of months, so we're gonna talk about the nature of Sebring at length in detail in March the 6th, when we are doing some racing at Sebring 12 hours, and March the 4th during the first practice, March the 5th on the first qualifying, so in 2 months time pretty much exactly. But briefly talking about Sebring, it is so, not only is it bumpy, but it's also very wide.
DEAC Hackers, one of their drivers, having a huge moment with several of the GT3 cars came back on track in a bad way, but I don't really think it was on purpose. It kind of seemed that the car just wanted to go back on track by itself in a bad way.
Yeah, guess who else we also have on track, by the way? In number 74, one of those Deuce's Porsches.
It's Nick Newcomber.
Yeah, Nick Cucumber.
Nick the Newcomer.
Yeah, exactly. And he, of course, you would know that name from the commentary booth. He's an absolute great guy, British guy. We all know he's got the racing past, but it is actually kind of rare that I see him personally racing. It's gonna be great to see how he gets used to basically getting back on track. And he has the R sign next to his name. I think that means, you know, he's almost doing a comeback this season. I think he's 75 years old.
75 million years old. Anyway,
exactly.
Anyway, look at his teammates. He's got someone there that's certainly of age as well, but quite experienced in endurance racing. Oh, saw the name.
Joao Barbosa?
Yes.
I had to second guess.
Quite known LMP2 driver. He's actually a real life race driver.
Yeah, he is. So it's going to be interesting to see how that 74 team actually does. Deuce's Motorsport Club, Wojtek Poleczny, Joao Barbosa, Nick Newcomb, and Michal Sedlacek as well. Sedlacek. I'm going to say that right from now on.
Yeah, well, they split the team up, so they're not all 5 in this car. Only 3 of them in the GT car. The other drivers are in the new LMP2 car.
Yeah, because they have I'm gonna have to actually check the uses. The number 15, Luca Gray, Teum Lawyer, Greg Hyde, and we actually got Nick's name on both of those cars, but I think he's gonna be on the GDE as of our current information.
Yeah, because you're not allowed to race in 2 cars anyway. So yeah, I think it's just a question of not having updated the driver list.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna do that right now. I'm gonna click his name, and then I'm gonna press the delete button because I can. There you go. It's updated.
At least in your version of the list, you can.
Yes, exactly. So not gonna have to wonder where is Nick gonna race, the elusive Nick Newcomb, racing in 2 cars, just ending his stint in the GDE, a double stint, and then going right into LMP2. No, sorry, Nick, you can't do that. I know you're hungry for the comeback, but you can't do that. Oh, again, seeing the number 10 having some difficulties in traffic there. I think that's gonna be Martin Henningsen or Henry Sinek. Either or, gonna have to check which one it is. See the position. It's gonna be Henry Sinek in that McLaren Senna GTR, just walking through some traffic there in the practice. But of course, it's practice, Peter. So this is the time to get used to the traffic, and that's why it's so important. We actually got so many teams and drivers out there today. You know, getting used to the traffic, getting used to the overtaking positions, and getting used to exactly that happening with the GT car running wide in the corner and pushing them onto the sand track.
Yeah, and another car that were actually in the Le Mans race, but it didn't really like make us what do you say? It didn't make anything special. It didn't do anything special and make too much noise about itself. Was the number 13, the Danish Racing League car? I think during the Le Mans broadcast, it was exciting. Oh, what is this pileup? It was exciting enough to be on screen for, I think, a combined 3 minutes or something like that. It was just circling the track, never being near anyone that did anything exciting. It was just running.
Yeah, oh yeah, I can see it now. Oof, that's That's the 334 as well piling into it. Oh, that's not a good look. But yeah, the number 13 Danish Racing League, and if they're gonna pull off the whole season without being on pictures once, I will personally have to give them some sort of an award, because that usually means they're having a good season, just finishing the races. That's going to bring a great result. But Morten Agersen, Sebastian Hove, and Matthias Højgaard Blom. I got a Danish co-commentator. Why did I spell those names? I don't know.
I don't know. But it sounded good enough. It didn't hurt my ears.
Oh, so that's good.
That's good.
Yeah, but those guys, do you know those guys any better, Peter? Do you have like any past experience with them?
I think I do, but I know them from the events and from general Danish sim racing, but not more than
one else, really.
Just the names.
So not only are they not in the pictures, there's actually no record of them whatsoever. Are we sure they are real?
Yeah, I'm getting this sense that someone's still hammering the website, and that's why we're not getting the names on the car either. I was trying to pull up the overlay so we could get the names of the entire team, but somehow that was not cooperating.
Well, we do have pictures for those guys, so that's good. And I must say that Mr. Sebastian Hove, he has a bow tie in his picture, and I already like him because of that. Yeah, because most of the pictures are guys. It's basically faces of guys, which is not bad. Seeing somebody's face when they're driving, that's good. But when somebody actually has what looks like a white suit too and a black bow tie on, then that's gonna be an instant fan favorite. Just because of the style. You gotta have some style.
Yeah. The classy driver style. I don't think he's dressed like that when he's driving. If he is, I'm
Are
impressed.
you sure?
If he is, I'm really impressed.
Actually, back in the 60s, 70s, I'm going way back, I know. This has nothing to do with endurance racing. Gonna say. This has something to do with racing though. Back in the 60s, 70s, Hannu Mikkola, who is a World Rally Champion from 1983, he started back in the 60s, and when he started racing, he always had a bow tie or a cravat on or a tie on when he was racing, and a dress shirt and slacks or dress pants as well, and even proper dress shoes. He was always racing with those, and he was called the gentleman. And you could always, the fellow drivers said that, okay, you can tell when Hannu is really trying, is that first he takes the suit jacket off, and then he loosens up the tie or the bow tie just a little bit, and maybe opens up a single button. And when he opens up a single button on his shirt, he's gonna be really driving. Because back then, of course, you didn't need fireproof overalls. You just had maybe an open face helmet and maybe like a simple seatbelt back when rallying. But there was also another reason for that. And that was that back in the 1960s, 70s, I don't know when it ended, but back then the restaurants, which includes bars in Finland, you had to wear a suit to enter one. So if your race goes badly, well, you can just basically go straight to the bar.
And if it was anything like at Le Mans, a lot of the races started being just on public roads. And of course that would be through cities and stuff like that as well. So just stop in the next town at the bar and...
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he actually did sober up back in the late 70s and became a World Rally Champion and was one of the key people in developing the Audi Quattro, of course. So he was involved in that one, great story. But a little bit of rallying history and a little bit of history with racing in fancy clothes as well. And back in these days, of course, we got the fireproof suits for everybody. And even in sim racing, you're starting to see more and more team gear. People have their team t-shirts on and those technical shirts. And in the live event, which we hope we can do soon, once again, I really hope here, because they're always great, you see some teams really like... putting the hammer down and getting known with their sponsors, getting known with the fellow drivers, actually having kind of mini team buses and so on popping around with their sponsorship products on display and with their drivers there and launching about, and it's a great atmosphere. It really is. And now I'm a little bit sad that we didn't have it this year.
I think with the COVID vaccines rolling out, certainly the goal in Denmark is to have everybody that wants to be vaccinated by the beginning of June. So yeah, I think we're on
Which
for
year?
proper this year. I think we're looking at it. Actually, there might be still some kind of restrictions, but certainly not restrictions that should not make it possible to have the event. I'm willing to wager that we're going to have a live event for 2021.
Ooh, that would be great. That would be great. Isn't that right, Nick Newcomb?
Yes, it's the old man who yeah. I think the UK plan is for the basically tiered the country into groups, and the plan is that the first 4 groups vaccinated by January the 15th, and then it rolls out and out further on, and they're going to have hubs of vaccination centres plus doctors plus other various agencies doing it. The army's involved. It's supposedly got a plan, and its country's meant to be vaccinated up to main groups by end of March, April.
Oh, that's good. That's already fast, because up here we have to wait until they started it, but it's a little bit slower here, so maybe end of the year, but
I think where we're lucky is that one of the vaccines that was developed is actually UK based, which the UK pre-ordered 40 million, and that's what's getting produced at the minute.
That should help a lot.
Yeah, that helps a lot. And obviously it's easier to store and transport because it's to be kept at fridge temperature, whereas the other main one that was developed in America is -70, which is hospital sort of freezers only,
Yeah, freezers only, or if you're in Finland, store outside, pretty much.
Yeah, just put them outside.
It's much easier in Finland, but
Yes.
It's pretty cool.
Can I say, Nick, just as a slight side comment, your audio is particularly bad.
Because my main headset was a couple of weeks back. That's why I'm on a standby headset.
That makes sense. I had to change your volume, but yes, the guy speaking through a tin can is Nick Newcomb. Hello, welcome, Nick. We were just talking about you I heard. Minutes ago.
My teammate told me that you were calling me. Yes, the old man. Yes, Peter. 75-year-old. If I'm 75-year-old, I'm pretty quick for a 75-year-old.
Yeah,
you are. Only for a 75-year-old, but yeah.
Only for a 75-year-old.
Yeah, we need a senior class here, the senior citizen class.
Yeah, don't forget, if I turn up in Denmark, I'll buy you from the Chinese. We'll all go in and have a Chinese meal, and you can sit outside the window and just watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And don't worry, John and I will be joining the seniors club quite quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
And
we'll all get older,
Yeah, we are. I'll be turning 30 in
30.
In 1.5 years.
God, I was still wearing the green army uniform then at 30.
I was wearing it when I was 20.
I was first started wearing it when I was 19.
Yeah, because of course different situations. I was just conscripted. Did my year.
You do. What is it? 6 months conscription?
Well, it depends. I served a full year because I can't actually say on broadcast what I was, but I had to.
It's just 8 months to do seven months to do basic training.
Well, it's basic training is 3 months, but you have to serve at least 6 months because it's 3 months basic, and then you have to do the special training, whatever you do. You get home after half a year.
You must have learned how to march in them 3 months, did you?
I mean, that it felt like, you know, more they were practicing. Okay, tonight.
Making your bed in March and then.
Yes, it's universal. It's universal, isn't it?
Yeah.
He got proper good at it.
Yeah. I've never been in an inspection. We were on the bottom floor. There was 2 floors, and I was next to the window, and I was getting, and like we're waiting, standing to attention, and our wardrobes open, so the sergeant could inspect it. And all I saw from outside the window from upstairs was bedding, clothes, and then the bed getting thrown out the window. And I've actually seen on the parade square a guy having to take his whole corner out and put it on the parade square and make it as if it was his bedside. Honestly, the British Army's brutal at times, like.
Yeah, I mean, the worst I experienced was like skiing 15 kilometers at minus 25 or something with gas mask on half the time because supposed gas warnings, and then you get there and you're of course carrying full gear, so that's like 35-40 kilos full because you're going camping.
What's that in pounds? Because we used to carry 70. I was in more. That's
the same, 70 pounds.
Horrible.
Standard gear is about the same.
Yeah, plus your weapon, plus a couple of motor rounds.
Yeah, so landmines.
I remember coming back and after coming back from an exercise, we reenacted the Falklands War. Went through the whole phases, and by the time we'd finished and I got back home, I was basically walking at like a 35-degree angle because with all the kit I had on my back, it took us about a week to start walking up straight again.
Oh, that's
117 car got notched in the side by the I think is that the 166 GT3 Mercedes from ID Simsport.
Oh, that car.
Yeah, could be. Oh yeah, there's practice going on.
Is that not the 188?
Look at the lap. Like it's someone just put up. No, 2 teams just put up better times in LMP2, but all the other classes. Look at how close the timing is. We got 6 cars inside the same second in GTE. I think we got 7 in GT3. I think we got 5 or 6 in LMP2, and all of the hypercars.
Wow!
Inside the same second.
That's crazy.
It's honestly the closeness of the timings is going to be crazy. The races are so close. The driving, all the teams. I think the name of the game this season is you have to get points. If you can get points in every race, it's a must.
Yeah,
it's a must. Yeah. And if you can grab a podium or a win. Help you along the way. You've just got to score points. It's that tight.
Exactly. Like I feel bad for the teams that had to miss this first race. I really do, because it's going to be so important to get points in.
Oh yeah. To come back, going to be tight.
That was your guy, Nick. Didn't see that. Yeah, that was your GTE car. Didn't seem like he saw the 117 coming from behind. Was just taking an onboard ride with the leader of the LMP2 class. It's actually only a 0.076 lead over the 22 Mutant Sim Racing.
There was a time on the timing charts I had the same time as the guy in front.
Yeah,
that's how crazy it is tonight.
It's pretty rubbered in the track as well by now. I'm guessing some of the teams are trying to prepare the setups now for qualifying tomorrow, because with all these teams on track, it is going to matter whether you start first or last in class. Oh, just noticed a bit of an issue. Yeah, the cars are parked at the beginning of the pit lane. The cars are parked really, really closely, so you can't really start. You can't really start in the garage and move your car just a little bit to the side. If the other guy presses escape, his car's going to land on top of you. They're all packed really tightly in there. talking about cars entering two classes as well, guys. Oshin, you mentioned the one move team. They've actually got They've actually got a GT3 team as well.
Yeah.
Oh. That's actually quite interesting. Speaking of cars and teams and driving and drivers, we've been talking a lot about drivers. We've been talking a lot about teams. We've been getting slightly off topic at times. But Nick, since you have the first-hand experience, we speculated with Ewan how difficult it must be to drive at Indy. Peter mentioned as well it's difficult to drive at Indy. Is it difficult to drive at Indy?
The driver change.
No, to drive at Indy. This track.
No, not really. But it's easy to get it wrong. Especially,
yeah.
Especially in the transition from sector 2 to sector 3. That tight right left. You can lose if you get the entry wrong. You'll understeer into the first turn, which then puts you out of sync for the second turn, which can cost you at least half a second, maybe 0.3 to half a second. So there's your lap gun.
Yeah, that is your lap gun, absolutely. And somebody's gonna make that mistake when they're pushing in the race because it's a 12-hour.
It's easy to when you get in the groove. It's really good, but if something gets you out of sync, maybe an overtaking car or somebody coming, or you're overtaking a slower class car, it can put you out. You've just got to get yourself back in the groove again. But it's easier to get it wrong.
Yeah,
just by that. So. Yeah, in turn 1, because you've got the long, high-speed front stretch. You've got to get your brake point right. And I think that's where the higher class cars are going to maybe struggle in the overtake. Because if you can't overtake in turn 1, you've got the tight turn 2 to turn 3. You've got to set yourself up correctly for turn 4 to try and get the overtake done, or you're going to lose a whole heap of time.
That was the way it felt to me as well, Nick, that every corner leads into the next corner, and if you don't get the exits right, you're going to mess up the next corner and then get the exit of that one wrong. And you end up getting the exit onto one of the straights out of the front or back straight wrong, and then it's going to cost you.
Oh, big deal, yeah. Especially if you burn the tires up or whatever, lose traction for a little bit. You've just got to set it up right and try not to be over anxious. Just make sure you get the first section right, especially if it's into turn 1, because if you can't get that right, it's going to cost you so much time. And when you cross the timing beam for the first sector, it's like what you say, if you don't get that next turn right, the right-hander onto the back straight, then you're really done, because you've got the tight left, which goes into that right-left combination into sector 3. And if you don't get the exit right on there, you're not going to pass until you start going onto the front stretch banking. So...
Joseph Frederick having a bit of a moment there.
Yeah, he's just on that front stretch banking that Nick was talking about, getting into turn number 1 with his Senna GRO, and we lost him from the pictures apparently. There we go, getting back.
And it's a place where it's quite hard to judge whether you should go inside or outside slower cars, because they're transitioning from the inside to the outside of the track right there.
Yeah. So how difficult it is in terms of traffic, because we've been talking
nightmare.
EE car. Oh, nightmare, right.
Yeah, because the circuit, as you can see, for LMP2 and hypercars, let's call it an average of 120. 121 maybe in race pace. It's to pass you, and then before you know it, in a race situation, a few laps later they seem to be passing you again. So it's the first couple of laps are going to be like within class, and then after that it's just overtake for the rest of the race. So then obviously you've got the pit stops coming into play again, so the traffic's going to be really bunched up. So
I was just thinking about the traffic situation, especially when you mentioned the importance of getting past in the main straight, because you are gonna have a point where an LMP2 car, and this is the age-old debate about the passing rights. The GD drivers hating the LMP drivers and the proto drivers hating the GD drivers. Always somebody doing something wrong. So especially here when you do need to absolutely get past into turn number 1, how difficult it is to see in a GDE car when you are on the racing line, and that LMP car, because it's a wide entry in turn number 1, it's a very wide entry, so how difficult it is to see whether that guy is actually gonna dive inside you or not.
Well, if you're on the wall going into turn 1 and you've got the P2 or the hypercar on your inside, it's easier to lift off and let him go through and then just tuck in behind him. That's the way, instead of trying to force the issue and making him wait. It's easier for a car to overtake you going into the turn or coming out of the turn, not through the turn, which you're asking for trouble then.
Yeah, that's the old wisdom, isn't it? Like you want to put the faster car past before the corner, so actually,
you don't need to lose much time. All you do is lift and coast slightly.
Yeah, exactly. And
all you got to do to let a faster class car through. It's not rocket science, Nobody owns the track, because if you think about it, there's 4 different races on the same track at the same time.
Well, Tony George does, I think.
Yeah. So
Yeah, he actually has the lease on the track. So
yeah. Indy.
Yeah. There's certain drivers have a leasehold and pay a mortgage on this track, I think, by the way they're driving, like so.
in more than one way.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So we'll see. Right, I'm gonna do a few more laps before. After this old man has to go to bed and go to work. I did my first shift today since before Christmas, and it's absolutely wrecked us.
Yeah, it is.
I'm absolutely shattered.
Because this is my first commentary since the holiday break. Yeah, so it's all for all of us, not only the drivers but also the commentators and everybody in the crew. Like we're just getting back into the rhythm, I suppose, after the holidays, and weighing 10-15 pounds more because of all the Christmas.
Oh yeah.
That'll only lower your center of gravity in sim racing. That's always a good thing.
Yeah, make it faster.
You're not gonna fall out of the chair as easily.
Yeah, certainly not. Right then, boy, I'm getting back in the car, do a few more laps.
Have fun.
All right, guys. Bye bye. See you a bit later. Bye bye.
That's a tough night of racing for Nick there. It sounds like.
Yeah, it is. Not only getting to work today, but also driving a little bit and getting back into the car, getting his feet under him, so to speak, getting the rhythm back. And it's going to be tough for a lot of drivers. I mean, a lot of these people may not have been driving so much during the holiday break, as we talked with you early on in this broadcast. But if you weren't there right at the start, then welcome. This is the first practice session of Endurance E-Racing World Championship in 2021. And so far we are seeing no great surprises. It's the number 10, it's the Drillers guys on the lead of the overall leaderboard with their hypercar entry, but Peter, other than that, a lot of new changes, a lot of new stuff coming this season, and a lot of excitement, of course, because it is the start.
Yeah, we were on board with one of the new teams just before, the number 22 Mutant Sim Racing team. We haven't seen those guys in here before. Don't know if people recognize the names. I'll try and activate the overlay for the names again. There we go. Are you the one saying the names, or should I try and break my?
I can try, because that's Hungarian now.
Gabor Hevesi, I can do that. Slotan Varkonyi, I can do that as well. And then Sultan Boda is quite easily as well. So yeah, well, it was easier than I thought.
Yeah, Gabor Hevesi, but actually, are they all Hungarian?
I would like to have been able to see right now in our overlay, but that's a small feature that's missing right now. We'll have the nationalities of the drivers up, I think, before the end of the weekend, or at least before the next race.
Because I got a small tidbit about the Hungarian language. It's not only a sister language of Finnish.
I actually knew that.
Yeah, both are Finno-Ugrian languages, but it's funny when you look at the map because Finland is way up here on the frozen corner of Europe, and Hungary is like next to a lot of other Central European countries. It's next to Austria and Germany and Poland, and located in that cluster. But the Hungarian language is actually related to the Finnish language. We can't understand it. I can't speak it, certainly. I don't understand any of it. But what they do, as opposed to Finnish and as opposed to a lot of other languages, in their names are actually said just like Japanese names, surname, first name.
Okay.
So it's not Gabor Hevesey, it's Hevesey Gabor. And there's also a lot of spelling rules in place. The emphasis is always on the first syllable. That's like Finnish, so it would be Hevesey Gabor. But not like that. Of course, I can't pronounce it properly, but that's the basic rules of Hungarian language.
Okay. Prosim giving up, having a bit of lag here, and I think they pressed escape. Actually, I think something happened to the server because everything is frozen.
Yes, so we have the first server freeze of the season. Oh, we're back.
We are back online. I don't know if it was an issue here locally with my internet connection or what it was, but yeah, everything's back up and running.
That's good to see, and we don't see anything on fire. Do you see any smoke, any fire?
No crashes. A lot of cars stayed on track, so yeah, that must have been something locally here at my end.
Well, that's actually good news because, of course, server crashes are the worst nightmare of any sim racing organizer. So, thankfully, we don't have that happen here. Now I changed it, I think. Don't say that. It's gonna go down in 3, 2, 1. Ow.
But John is sitting on it with his IT whip and commanding it to behave. So
faster, run! I can imagine him now driving a chariot of just server racks instead of horses around this horse racing track.
He's purely willing the R-Factor 2 server into cooperating and running properly.
Yeah. Speaking of willing things to run properly and speaking of running properly, I mean, it's early days still, but from your perspective, having obviously been in the GDR 24 Hours organization for a long time, pretty much since the start of it, if I'm not mistaken?
Something close to that. Not for the first 2 years, but yeah.
So, who's your favorite to win?
Overall, or do we do each class?
Yes.
I'm guessing overall then, because that's
each class.
Each class. Then we can start with the GT3. GT3 guys, I think a bit of an outsider, but the 404 Glam Racing car. I've seen them practice quite a lot on this track. I know they've got quite a good setup. So, yeah, for GT3, I'm going to have to say the 404 Glam Racing team.
Did they give you a setup for practicing by any chance?
Nope, they did.
Okay.
I have their setup, but mine was better, so I gave them mine instead.
Whoa! Okay, so that's basically assistance to a team from an organizing body.
I was doing private practice runs with them for just testing the track and if everything was working and graphics and everything. And yeah, I thought the car handled pretty well. Though I've been racing a lot of the cars in the field, so yeah. Maybe there's other guys out there who received setups from me as well. Well,
Yeah.
Since that seems a controversial issue, I won't. I'm not involved with any of the race control stuff or anything like that. So
Yeah.
even if I could affect the race, I can't make anyone faster than they actually really are.
Yeah, and you got a job at FIA coming up, Ferrari International Assistance, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. By the way, to any viewers, it's all jokes. He's not really helping anyone. Play along.
For the GTE cars, I would have to say either of the Musto GT esports cars.
What a surprise!
They're very experienced endurance sim racers, and I think that's going to play in their favor for this race, because staying out of trouble, staying on track, or let's phrase that in another way, stay out of the pit lane is going to be the factor that's going to win this race. It's lap times are going to have a bit to say, but I think in the end it's going to be the team that stays out of pit lane that's going to win this. LMP2, I am completely undecided. There's so many fast LMP2 drivers, so many fast LMP2 cars here. You can see it just on the lap times. But I think it's going to go down between the Vargas Sim Racing team and the Mutant Racing teams. I think those two are the teams that are going to challenge for the win here. Either of those could be it. And of course, Hypercar, we can't ignore. We can't ignore Henry Sinnick and his crew. So, yeah.
That's the picks. That's the inside.
It has to be Drillers Esport for the overall win. It has to be.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see a lot of challenge in the Hypercar class, but it's gonna be also very, very difficult to challenge those guys. Gonna be very difficult to beat them. Certainly, I think if anyone is able to beat them during a fair race, just beat them by sheer pace, even in one of these races, then I'm gonna be both a little bit surprised, but also very, very positively surprised. It's gonna be a great challenge, certainly something that is achievable. Anyone is winnable, that's the thing, nobody is immortal, but the way these guys have been, running here today, running fast laps after fast laps after fast laps, despite winning the Le Mans event last year. So they were just winning it last year, and now they're returning and seeming to not be bothered by the long break, to not be bothered at all by the time outside of the cockpit. I'm not sure if they have even celebrated the holidays at all, or just been glued to their sim rigs.
I've seen the Drillers guys practice quite a lot. I think the championship matters quite a lot to them. Obviously, they won the Le Mans race last year, so I'm guessing they're putting this quite high on their list of priorities. Also, I think with the season we have this year, it's no joke to actually call it the World Endurance e-racing championship, because if you win this, you've won a lot of very, very tough races against some very, very tough competitors, and it's definitely been endurance racing, because I can't even remember now, is it 3 12-hour races and 3 24-hour races? So you're gonna race on track for a long time.
Yeah, it's gonna be 2 24-hour races and 4 12-hour races.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, it's a lot of track time.
It is.
That is the most track time of any sim racing series that I know of.
It's going to be 48 plus 48, so it's going to be 96 hours of racing, just in terms of racing. That's racing alone. That's not including the practice, the qualifying, everything else that's going on, your own practice, the official practice that's going on right now, the qualifying that you need to practice for, and then the race times as well. So you're going to be doing well over 200 hours of racing just to beat one championship, and that's just to have a chance for it, basically. And 96 hours, when you imagine if any of our viewers have been endurance racing, and I can only assume that a lot of you have been endurance racing if you're watching this. So imagine what can go wrong in a single lap. Imagine being in a field with 4 different classes, with a lot of cars going at different speeds, tackling difficult corners, dealing with the traffic, all of that. Imagine just driving the corners alone first and foremost. Then put other cars around you, in your class, fighting you for position. Then put cars that are at 3 different speeds compared to you. Faster than you or slower than you, whatever. And the multi-class traffic and the situations that you have to deal with over the course of 1 lap. Then imagine doing 5 laps and a full stint, which is usually around 1 hour. Then multiply that by 12, add in the variable of having multiple drivers, and then multiply that by having 6 events, of which 4 are 12 hours and 2 are 24 hours. And then all we can say is if you win it, then you know that you've done something great. You will know by the end of the year from the fatigue levels, from your tiredness, from all the effort you put in, that you've done something great just to complete all the races. But if you actually manage to do it better than anybody else, from teams filled with the finest sim racing drivers in the world, then it's going to be a great achievement. It's going to be, or as we would say in Finland, it would be okay.
Okay, I'm trying to go through the standings as well, because actually on the subject of changes and new things, there are actually 2 LMP2 cars available now, so 2 different brands of LMP2 cars. There's the regular Orica 07 that we all know, and some love, some hate. I think most people love that car. It's a driver favorite, I think. But now there's a Ligier as well.
Yeah, Ligier.
Don't know if you saw that when it came out.
I actually didn't see when it came out, but I knew that it was on the roadmap for R-Factor 2, the Studio 397 roadmap that they usually put out, and that they're gonna release the LMP2 car, and it's gonna be a Ligier, and it's great to see actually 2 different LMP2 cars that the drivers can choose from, and Ligier as well. Like, we know them as a former Formula 1 team, a great manufacturer, and still racing these Ligier cars in real life as well, and a lot of auto racing being done as well.
Yeah, so you should look out for the number 32 B32 racing team. They have chosen to enter one of the new Ligiers for the season. I think they're actually the only one, because people are complaining that the car is too heavy on fuel and it's not fast enough. But I think they got something. I think they got something in the bag worked out for the setup of that car. I've seen them do pretty decent lap times. They're sadly not on the server tonight, which I find particularly strange.
They're hiding their pace.
Actually, we're having about 50 active cars on track tonight.
Wow. Of course, if you're wondering about that, then we are allowing for the practice sessions, we are allowing drivers from the same team to drive at the same time, meaning that we have, for example, we have like teammates driving out there, like example in the hypercar class, the number 80, Josef Frederick Soto and Thomas Garcia for the number 80 team are out there at the same time.
They're 1 and 2 right now, and less than a second behind Henry. Actually, Garcia just took the overall pole now.
1:18.590. Talk about timing.
We're going fast now. We're going really fast now. Okay, I'm gonna have to not disregard this Omicron sim racing team. They seem to have found something in this car.
I'm gonna be very interested to see how Henry Cynic will react to that, because he's not very used to seeing his name anywhere else than on the lead.
There should be a 1 beside that in some way.
Yeah, there should be. There definitely should be. So, we just talked about the hypercars, like what, 2 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago, something like that, and drillers being very difficult to beat. Well, looks like somebody has thrown their hat into the ring.
Yeah, someone's gonna challenge for that, because I was actually thinking maybe a better guessing game would be trying to guess second place in the classes, because that's going to be a tough one. That's going to be a really tough one for all the classes.
It is. That's actually very true, because you can predict the victor, you like have a clear favorite, but who's gonna be second in the hypercar class, who's gonna be second in the LMP2 class, and even the GD classes, like the GD classes are even more difficult to predict that who's gonna be second. You don't have a clear favorite for that, I don't think, in any class.
No, and GT3 is particularly hard, I think, since we had a few of the teams kind of promoted to GTE, because we want to keep the GT3 class for kind of the sportsman or rookie sim racing class. So that's for people that have sim racing more as a hobby than actually do it as a real sport, and it's for people coming into sim racing. So we want to have some class where the grassroots of sim racing is always welcome. There's been a lot of debate about, that was so weird, like what's going on? Somebody did hit something at the end of I'm gonna save replay and then do instant replay and see if that works.
Yeah, you do that, because my camera angle is changing, but I think I caught the tail end of that on the main straight.
I only saw it on board from the 80 car, and I saw a car inside that hitting something that made it jump up in the air, and I think it all went nuts from there. Okay, so my save replay button doesn't seem to work properly. It doesn't
Good thing it's only practice. We can work out this.
We have in the production machine had quite a severe incident. One of our discs in the machine that we used to save all the races on has died, or semi died. Yeah, so that was quite some work trying to recover parts of the racing from that as well. So yeah, bit of an issue. My replay doesn't want to do anything. Nope. No chance. We're gonna have to do an in-game replay if we want to see that.
Oh, again. That's so much fun, because in
did we have the in-game replay fixed? Because last time at Le Mans, every time you tried to do a replay, we had big time stutters, and the replay itself was moving along at slow motion pace. No, I actually have working in-game replay.
Yeah, you do, and you are on PC6 as well.
I'm trying to make this work. So we want to find the 80 car, which was where? There it is. One of them. Oh, that's a problem. There's multiple 80 cars.
Yeah.
So this actually? We have to find the. No, this is the P3 one. There should be one of them that's P1.
Yeah, that's Thomas Garcia. That's him.
That's him in the pit lane. Yeah, the viewer can't see this because they're watching watching the other 80 car.
Okay, that's fair enough. So we are just fiddling with the production feed for those who are wondering what's going on. Is it amateur hour? No, we're just trying to find a replay for you.
This is what practice is for. I really am curious to see if there was something collidable stuff. I haven't seen it while editing the track, but this is a very old track. I think this came out when R-Factor 2 was nearly new, so close to 2013. I think it's from 2014 or something like that, the track itself. It doesn't look that bad, like the quality of the textures and everything seems quite okay, but I don't think it's been updated ever since then. I found one issue with the track, especially on the outside of the first hairpin corner, you could actually, if you ran off track and went out onto the tire wall, there was actually a hole through the track, so there was a part of the track that didn't have like a collision target, so you could actually fall through the track. So that's been fixed in this version. I'm sure drivers are gonna like it when they don't fall.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's gonna be a little bit embarrassing in the middle of the race, you know, trying to explain how did your race end. Well,
we fell into infinity.
Exactly.
Well, there's still some special things about GTR 24H racing, is that you do have the possibility to rejoin the race.
That's a good thing.
So if you fall out to infinity, your car will be stored in the garage, and you can actually rejoin the racing.
People always ask, you know, we have mechanical problems in real life, we have various things that can happen to you in real life. Rest assured, that is a problem unique to sim racing.
We always try to see like technical issues with your PC or pedals or anything falling apart would be like hardware issues in real life. Is how I look at it. And of course, keeping your PC clean, all the cooling properly, everything, keeping it running smoothly is to me like tuning and making a car run smoothly. That's like the analog for that.
Yeah, and for people who have aluminium or metal sim racing rigs out there, which I can only assume is most of them, because the age of tabletop sim racers is slowly ending.
Yeah, I'm not having any luck with this replay.
Ah, that's too bad. But the age of tabletop sim racers is slowly dying. I think I'm actually one of the last ones, and I'm doing mostly commentary these days. So if you do have an aluminium rig or a metal sim racing rig, or you're planning to get one, please insulate the sim racing rig. That's one of the most important things you can do. Put some rubber under it, something separated, especially if you have a carpet on the floor. If you have a hardwood floor, okay, it's gonna get some scratches maybe, but if you have a carpet on the floor, the worst thing that can happen is that when somebody is coming up to the rig, it's gonna short because the electricity traveling through the rig to the carpet, and then somebody else is walking the carpet, and the static electricity can actually cause the entire sim racing rig or some of the equipment on it to fail. We had that happen in one Finnish event, one 24-hour Finnish event, where one team's team boss was basically just tapping the driver or grabbing the driver's shoulder lightly and was like, hey, you know, you have to pit this lap on the back straight, like you need to pit this lap coming to the pit lane, and next thing you know the PC just rebooted. So because like the static electricity causing it.
I've seen that happen multiple times, especially with steering wheels shorting out. Because of static. I saw the video from Jay's 2 Cents, one of the like gaming hardware channels on YouTube. He actually did a video maybe a week ago. It was somewhere between Christmas and New Year's Eve. He did a video that showed how bad his static was getting, and he tried one of these anti-static mats to put that underneath his chair, and it didn't work anything. It didn't do anything. If it was something, it made it worse. So carpets and IT equipment, I would say, don't really mix. It's what I really got from that.
Yeah, rubber, it's basically following any other insulation rules. Like, you don't want to have a path from any person to any electricity in there, especially carpet, but anywhere from the person to the equipment for electricity to get by there. So you want to use rubber to insulate it, like with the sim racing equipment, for example. Like if you're going to have that on the rig, then have the rig insulated somehow from everything else. And rubber is a great insulator. People always use rubber gloves, rubber boots, or rubber soles in their boots. And that's like the best thing you can do is, or at least the cheapest thing you can do is just use rubber to insulate. It's not gonna cost much. You can get a rubber mat from any store and just put that under the rig and then, put it that way.
I've got a different trick, Ocean.
Oh.
I've got I think it's 1.5 meters copper spike that's actually driven into the ground outside my gaming room window, and a wire is running from that copper spike back to the gaming rig, and everything is grounded with that wire.
Oh, you actually grounded it properly, so you done it properly. But
I don't like, this house is too old for there to be proper grounded plugs in all the walls, so that's the only way I could really do it, was to ground it manually, the hard way.
So I was thinking, because that's going to be very difficult, for example, in my case, because I live on the second floor of this apartment. So suddenly a copper spike running to the street from my balcony is going to raise some questions, I think.
There's a cheap man's way of doing it as well. I don't know how you actually measure it, but you can use the if you have central heating with radiators.
Yeah, I do.
It's very, very likely that the radiators are going to form a very good grounding as well, because they most installations of that type do have pipes running in the foundations of the house as well.
Oh yeah, because the heating pipes, wouldn't they? So they would. You can actually ground it into the radiator, you're saying?
Yeah. It might not work everywhere, but there's ways to kind of measure it if it's grounding properly.
Oh, by the way, I should say, we here at GDR 24 Hours are not responsible for any damage caused to your equipment, your friends, your parents, or your body, or any of the house, if you do decide to follow these tricks or tips. These are just tips based on personal experiences, and we are not responsible. I'm just throwing that out there because I just know somebody's gonna try that, and in case it goes wrong, we got a lawsuit in our hands. So, just saving our hide there, I think.
Yeah, I would go and look up people doing this, like some professional electrician or someone with good knowledge on this. I am willing to bet that there's professional people with videos on YouTube on how to ground stuff exactly like this.
And if you are the least bit unsure, if you're at least a little bit unsure about how to do this, contact a professional. It's gonna be cheaper than replacing.
Call your local electrician. He can help you in like 10 minutes.
Exactly. And one more trick I got is that you can also ground all your sim racing gear and pretty much everything else into your doorbell. The best thing about that is that nobody will be bothering you.
Yeah. Every time they touch the doorbell.
Would you like to hear about our blah blah blah?
Why are all these stiff bodies lying 2 meters from your front door?
What's with all the corpses?
Yeah.
I don't know. Beats me. Okay. I think we also have a practice going on, don't we, Peter? Because
we do. I'm trying to follow development. It's still like equally tight at the top of all classes. It's still the. What do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 LMP2 cars inside the same second as the lead car.
And on the hypercar class, on the overall leaderboard, I was watching earlier, I think Henry Sinic got within 100 of a second of Thomas Garcia, but then Garcia did improve. He's put in 118.3 now, which is even faster. It's 2 tenths faster than the earlier time we were watching. And Sinic is now 2.5 tenths behind.
And GTE, we got the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars as well inside the same second as the leader. So, yeah, it is still very, very exciting. Actually, if you're only into the fast lap times, then it's going to be very, very hard to predict the outcome of the race on Saturday.
That it is, and. Well, if you're only watching, of course, watching only lap times is not going to be the optimal solution. You're going to need to do a lot more than that, but watching fast lap times is certainly one way to get a good idea of, who's going to be the favorites. But as we talked about earlier, as Nick mentioned, it's also a nightmare of a track in terms of traffic, so that's going to play a big part into it. But the best way to get rid of traffic, the best way to get rid of yourself, or rid yourself from all the trouble, is to qualify on pole and then run away.
Yeah, that's your best. That's actually your best bet right now. Yeah, but at some point you're going to get into traffic, either cars catching up from behind or slower cars that you're going to have to overtake. So, no matter how little you like it, you are going to be in some kind of game where someone else throws the dices. So you can be as good as you possibly can, and still random stuff will happen.
That's endurance racing, and that's both the beauty and the ugliness of it, so to speak. Ugliness from driver's perspective, who has done a perfect race and then having it thrown away due to no fault of their own, just being at the wrong place in the wrong time, in a wrong place at the wrong time, rather. And that's also the beauty of it, in a sense that anything can and usually will happen, so the race is not over until it's truly over. I think we've seen, I think it was 2019 when I was, the last live event we did in Denmark, the Le Mans race. Then one of the class winners was decided after the race, because they didn't actually finish the race, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was.
Rocky Monsters was involved in it, I think.
I must admit, I don't remember. I don't remember much of that race at all.
Yeah, so, it's fair enough. Because I remember some guys had to pit at the last second, and because they pitted to run out of fuel or something, they were still like 1 lap ahead because they didn't finish the race. That means they got protested, and then another team won the race or something, and it was one of the craziest things I've seen in sim racing, because usually these races don't go down to the wire that much. And then there is also the whole fuel saving shenanigans and that people can get up to, and weather conditions that can be unpredictable. That's a great thing in R Factor 2. Thing I really like is weather, and how it can really, really mess a race up. Like, you have to look at the weather radars, you actually have to predict that when is the rain gonna come. You have to have that as part of your strategy, and you also have to practice the driving in rainy conditions. Yeah, that's the 51 being a little bit
that's actually the fastest GTE car at the moment, leading his teammate by 0.004 of a second. That's quite crazy. Speaking of the weather, weather radar coming up. Indianapolis is smack dead in the middle of that. I know it's hard to see right now. The downpour or precipitation, as you would want it, is the blue and green areas. The more green it gets, the more rain. The more blue it gets, the more snow. So it's actually there's a few like blobs of snow right near the track. Of course, there's not going to be snow in the game. That will be translated or interpreted as rain. Also, the temperatures are adjusted, so we don't get the freezing cold minus Celsius degrees there's a modifier put in on it. I think it's plus 10 degrees, but that will be in the rule book. I think it's plus 10 degrees, so we're 20 degrees or 10 degrees hotter in the game than we are in real life. But other than that, all the rain temperatures and everything comes from the real life track.
Wouldn't that be awesome though, if we actually had proper snow and ice model in R-Factor 2? Especially ice, because I know, living in Finland, once again, I'm familiar with this thing called snow. I can just look outside and see half a meter of it. Well, almost. But, proper snow and ice, especially if it's hovering around 0. Because at night you would get like -1, -2, you would get a little bit of snow. And then on the day, once the morning comes, it gets like +1, +2, +3. It starts to melt a little bit, and then you get some black ice in the shadowy spots, which you can't really see, and you get Monte Carlo rally basically, but endurance racing on slicks or rain tires.
Now we need, if it's ice and snow, we need the spiked tires.
Can you imagine fitting spiked tires on a McLaren Senna?
I can,
like proper studded tires.
Yeah, I can, but it will be some of the tires that they use for this kind of ice rallycross racing.
Yeah, or rally racing, which would be studded tires or those spike tires, because they use a lot of spikes in like rally tires. They're actually the snow tires are very, very narrow. They're much narrower than any of the tarmac or the gravel tires. They're very narrow and they're very grippy. If you look at something like Rally Sweden, for example, you can see the WRC cars. They actually have more grip with snow tires on snow than they have with gravel tires on gravel.
Yeah, I am looking at the, or was looking at the 68 LMP2 car. That's the Team E-Brit. Yeah, it's listed as Team E-Brit. They're actually involved in real-life racing as well, as far as I know. A lot of the drivers are sort of disabled veterans from from all the various conflicts around the world.
I remember that. I think they went to Paris-Dakar a couple of years back as well, because they were involved in one of the Top Gear broadcasts.
Yep.
And
that was driving one of the 4x4 bowler cars, wasn't it?
Yeah. I'm actually having a look at their Facebook page right now. Yeah, sim racing team of Team Brit for disabled sim racers, aiming to normalize disability and use motorsports to compete on a level playing field, and that's really a great goal.
Yeah, we are very, very proud to have them with us here as well. They just joined the track, so they must have just woken up or something, because they haven't been on server all night long. I've just seen them in here now. Very, very nice livery, and of course we know them from last year's Le Mans race as well, where they competed in the hypercar class.
Yeah, so now they're in the LMP2 class, and we got Max Spooner, Sandro Ballesteros, Matt Webb, and Stuart Ross French. Stuart Ross French is currently in that 68 car. They just actually did a driver change. So we got a couple of 4 drivers listed on our list as their drivers, but I think I saw Andy Morgan, not Andy Morgan, but one.
I only have 3 drivers then.
Oh, yeah, I got 4 listed on the team information panel for me, which is the sheet that's been handed out to me, the wonderful Excel sheet. But then again, I do live 1 hour in the future, so you're gonna get
this
in the next
may
hour.
be because the overlays here draws data from the actual race entry, and that data might be older than what you have on your spreadsheet.
Yes.
So this data would have been put in when they actually signed up for the race. They might not have edited the data since then.
Of course, when we talk about sim racing, when we talk about various injuries that one can have, like amputation or leg amputation or hand amputation indeed, and we talk about sim racing, of course, most of these, well, all of these drivers drive with pedals and steering wheel, so it's gonna be a little bit of a difficulty, but for many manufacturers already make hand pedals. So if you've seen Alex Zanardi, and I do hope he gets well soon from those terrible injuries he suffered during the fall, but Alex Zanardi racing in his, well, anything really, since his Lausitzring accident, you're gonna see hand throttle and hand brake as well being used, and being used very well, and those can be essentially modified pedals, only that you operate them with your hands. So you're gonna operate the pedals and the gears and the steering with your hands, and it's gonna be a lot like driving a motorbike really, only without that you can't really control your balance that well. So it's gonna be very difficult, but it is possible to do, and that's really great to see these people, you know, raising awareness for a good cause and trying to normalize the fact that, hey, giving hope to people that have suffered terrible injuries, whether in a military conflict or otherwise. Give hope that, hey, you don't have to give up your dreams, you can still do sports, you can still race out there, you can even go racing. And that's one of those things that not many people know about, but there is equipment available, there is hardware available, and there is help available too.
Certainly, sim racing and adapting equipment for disabled people is a lot easier in sim racing than it is in real racing.
Yeah, it is.
All of this is only electronics, and every one of your inputs can be like a regular electronic potentiometer. So anyway, you can attach a potentiometer and kind of manipulate that with a pedal thing, or whatever. It could even be controlling your throttle with your mouth if you wanted that. Like, it can be done in so many ways when it's sim racing. Also because you don't have the G-forces throwing you around in the car, which I've heard from disabled people is a big issue, especially if you don't have your legs. Because you'd be surprised, even if you can't move your legs, they're actually still there as a kind of counterweight. But if they're all amputated, your whole center of gravity goes completely bonkers. Then it doesn't work like it used to, or it does for us others with the equipment that's made for a full body. So that's a whole different kind of problems when you're talking real racing cars. Is if you have anything amputated, the balance of your body just isn't there. It doesn't work with the regular equipment. So that's even more to take into account. Those problems are not as bad when you're doing sim racing because the G-forces aren't there. You're not getting thrown around like this. So, yeah, sim racing is if you want to practice using your body as well, and you don't have space to do whatever gymnastics or stuff like that you can do as a disabled person as well, then I actually think sim racing is a good way of activating your body, because you're gonna have to learn to do coordinated stuff with your body as well. So I see a lot of advantages for disabled people coming into sim racing. I really do.
Yeah, I think so too. And you can actually try that when you mentioned that you don't have the counterweight of your legs. Well, everybody, because I know most of people who are watching this are going to be sitting down either on a couch or on a chair or whatever you're sitting down on. Well, if you are on a couch or a chair, try weaving a little bit, rocking yourself left to right. Do that with your legs planted on the ground if you are a full body person, and then lift your heels onto the chair or indeed the edge of the couch, and then try rocking yourself back and forth, and you can feel that it's a little bit different. It's a lot different because not only do you not have that weight closer to the ground, but your whole center of gravity when you are hoisted up is going to be different because all the weight is going to be higher, and it's much like trying to have a shopping cart with all the heavy items on the top, or anything with all the heavy items on the top. So it's going to be very, very, very different, and I really appreciate what these people are doing, as they say, normalizing it, not making it some sort of a special deal that not making it some sort of a freak show or anything, because a lot of people still think that way. A lot of people still think that, you know.
I don't hope so, Asya. I don't hope so.
Yeah, but some people still think that, you know, it's weird, and it's a super weird thing that the disabled people are practicing any sports. So these people are trying to prove a lot of the doubters wrong, and also having a great way to practice practice using their bodies and just go out there and compete, basically proving everybody wrong and proving themselves right as well, that they can compete and they can be competitive as well.
Certainly, and the eBrit team is certainly doing theirs to improve their lap times at the moment. We're seeing them experiment a lot right now. I don't know how much they've been practicing for this race. It's actually a good question, but from the indications right now, they haven't been spending a lot of time on track.
Yeah, so they are only gonna get better as the time rolls along, and as the timers roll along as well. Remember, this is only the first practice, so we are still on very early days of racing out there. Very early days of racing and very early days of trying to find out what these people can do, what these teams can do, and who's gonna be competitive and who's not. But already we have a little bit of a rivalry going on at the top of the overall leaderboards, because I think that was the sounds you were making, Peter. If you look at the top of the overall leaderboard.
That would hurt as well. I was just looking at one of the new teams as well, the Apostino Forza Polonia team, a Greek team here. Haven't seen them on the server either for practice. This is the first time I'm seeing them on the server as well, so it's going to be exciting to see what they're able to do. They were surrounded by the 777 DSR Nightmare car. Those guys have also moved from GT3 to LMP2. Overall leaderboard, you said, we're down to a 17.9 now from Henry Sinek. Oh my god, the guy's on fire.
Yeah, so Henry Sinek was like, so there is someone, Mr. Thomas Garcia, and he is trying to steal my thunder. Oh, you put in a 118.3. Well, that is just very cute. I'm gonna go into the 70s and I'm gonna see if you can match that. That's always great to see when guys go into that hot lapping mode. When the pride takes over. It's only practice, but you still have pride. And that's what I love about racing.
Yeah, but the track is properly rubbered in now, so this is the time to go looking for those qualifying lap times. Certainly, if I was racing in a team, that's what I would be doing right now, is preparing my qualifying setup.
Yeah, definitely, because the qualifying is tomorrow, mind you. There's not going to be a lot of time, and certainly not a lot of time to prepare for qualifying in such conditions, to see what you can do in rubber, in traffic, and just getting that feel out there. There are a lot of ways that endurance racing teams actually practice. Some of them just go full stints, some of them go one stint or two stints, and some teams practice qualifying, some drivers practice qualifying more. So you can be a hot lapper, or you can be an endurance racer, or you can be something in between. But certainly for a lot of the top drivers, I can see them kind of mixing in, where they put in the longer stints first, to just get a feel for the setup and get a feel for the traffic, and then later on they just start, saying, okay, let's take out the fuel, let's put in some softer compound tires maybe, and let's go in and chase that one perfect lap. And they can never get there, because the perfect lap doesn't exist, but the aim is to get as close as possible.
Well, I used to do the start of my practice with just about 2/3 fuel in the tank, and then trying to do some 5, 6, 8 laps stints to adjust the setup in, and then after that doing a couple of 3 full stints with the full fuel tank, and then after that trying to work on the qualifying setup, because sometimes when you try and do the qualifying setups you discover new things about the car, running it on low fuel, and you can move those whatever you learn from that, you can move that into the race setup and see if it makes the race setup even faster. But that is sort of that's been my routine for years and years.
Yeah, and there are a lot of routines for people when you start practicing and when you start doing it with teams. Personally, I tend to be the other way around. I have the bad habit of, okay, I'm gonna start doing full stints, I'm gonna start doing double stints, I'm just gonna calm down, work the setup one thing at a time, and if I'm doing it on a public server, inevitably at some point somebody will come to the server that puts in a qualifying lap. And I screech on the brakes and I'm gonna be like, nope, that's not gonna happen. I put in a qualifying lap. And then I realized that, but qualifying, this car doesn't quite work. It's oversteering here and it's understeering there, and then you're gonna start fiddling with the setup, the qualifying setup, and then you get caught up hot lapping instead of doing the proper procedure of actually racing and driving. And of practicing. But speaking of proper procedures, I think we also have a proper commentator here now joining us, Yusuf. He's gonna be here once again.
Hello, Yusuf.
Hey, Oshin, you made that sound like you're not a proper commentator. What's going on there?
No,
It's me. He's talking about me. I'm not a proper commentator.
Oh, okay. Right, I don't mind if we're digging on Peter. That I'm all for.
Yeah, so, no, but I'm glad to see you here, joining here on Practice 1 and I think on Practice 2 as well in soon-ish.
Soon-ish, yeah. Glad to be here alongside you. I think this is the first time we've both been in the commentary booth at the same time, Oshin.
Yeah, it has been, and I like it so much that I'm gonna leave. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh no, you're gonna leave me alone with Peter? I'm scared of him though.
Don't be scared of him, he's just a big baby.
True, I see that. So where are we at? How has the practice been looking so far, Oshin?
It's been looking like practice. A lot of there's been a lot of differences because some teams clearly look like they've done a lot of practice already before the first session. They're in tune, they're looking very comfortable with the track, with the conditions, having all their drivers out there putting in the full stints and putting in some good lap times. And then we got a couple of new teams and a couple of teams who are maybe starting to get into the post-holiday groove now. So starting to just feel their way around the cars a little bit. But we did have a bit of a surprise with because you know drillers, right?
Yeah.
Number 10, winning Le Mans, being pretty much the favorites.
Yeah.
So we had those guys penned in as the overall favorite for this season. Well, Thomas Garcia of Omicron Sim Racing, that team number 80, briefly got his chance to shine at the top of the leaderboard, actually put in a 1:18.5 when the fastest time for Henry Sinek at that point for drillers was 1:18.6, and then he even improved that to 1:18.3. At which point Henry Sinek, I suppose, I can only imagine, took his shackles off and started driving because he put in a 17.9, but certainly the Omicron Sim Racing, the number 80 team, putting up a challenge and saying, you know what, drillers are not the only ones who are capable of winning races. We are not afraid to throwing down, we are not afraid to put in a challenge.
Yeah, and I think you were kind of alluding to it a little bit earlier with how people approach practice, the procedure that they take in. When are people, doing those poly runs? When are they testing those race setups? But at the same time, while there may be that procedure, pride comes into play as well. And when you see someone topping the timing sheets, you just think, nah, we can't allow that. We need to jump up to the top of the standings. But of course, that's not everything between Pinson's drillers and the number 80 Omicron Sim Racing car, because it's not just Henry Sinek who's insanely quick for Pinson drillers. You've got Timotej Andonovski, Martin Hemmingsen, Jeroen Kweekel as well. They're all insanely quick. Maybe not quite Henry Sinek's level, but they're all right up there. And the question is, can all of the drivers from Omicron Sim Racing pull out that same kind of pace?
That is a good question. That is indeed a good question, because you don't only need the fast pace of one driver. That's going to be helpful in qualifying, but this is a team sport, man. This is a 12-hour race that we're going to have this Sunday. So in a 12-hour race, you're going to need more than one driver. Certainly in a 24-hour one, but even in a 12-hour one. So it's going to be interesting to see whether Josef Frederick Soto, Magnus Junnerup, and Patrick Silvasi or John Nelson indeed are gonna have that same kind of pace as Garcia is having, and if they are or if they don't, then how far off are they going to be? Because never ever in a racing situation are two drivers at exactly the same pace. So it's also about managing that pace across the field and trying to set a good, decent pace that all your drivers can achieve during the course of the race, and trying to also bring the medium a little bit up, meaning that the slowest drivers of your team, the other drivers, maybe giving them a couple of guides, giving them a couple of tips, trying to get them faster so the whole team can perform better.
Yeah, and speaking of getting that whole team to perform better, again, it comes down to setups as well, working with your teammates to get those setups fine-tuned, not just so that you are comfortable with that setup, but so that every single driver in your team is comfortable with that setup and, can work magic with it, because it's not just about one person being able to go, a second quicker than everyone else, because even if one driver can do that, if every other driver is a second off the pace, it's just going to come back to bite you in the rear, come the end of that endurance race.
Not to mention how much it sucks to be the slowest driver in a team. I don't think anybody wants to be that, because I've certainly been in a situation where, back when I raced in another simulator, in another era, in another century, blah 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 blah. But
how old are you, Arjun?
Yes. Very.
Yes, I like the answer to that one.
Yeah, so old, but back in the olden days, it used to be, I used to race with a couple of people who, actually you remember from 2019, you remember Coanda Sim Sport, maybe you remember from 2019, the live Le Mans event, the Endurance Racing World Championship at Denmark.
That was before my time.
Oh yeah, that was so Coanda guys showed up, and those guys are some pretty good sim racers. So I was teammates with one of them, Joni Takanen, back in 2015, and I was good back then, but he was on a different level. And we had another guy as well who was also on a different level, and those guys went on to compete for world championships and so on, and be really at the top of their respective endurance racing ladder. And I was the third wheel in the team, and never did I ever imagine I could be a second off pace at Spa. And that feeling sucks. And that's when you need your teammates to talk to you, and you need to yourself, you need to be honest, you need to swallow your ego if you're one of the slowest guys in the team, and you need to be like, okay, how can I get faster? How can I improve? What am I doing wrong? And you need to take the feedback. But if you manage to get into a team that has the right sort of atmosphere, that has the right sort of mix between competitive, because you need to be competitive. You can't just be, it's gonna be fine, it's gonna be alright, just do your own thing, blah blah blah. You need to be competitive as well. You need those guys to say to you, look, you need to get a little bit faster, we want you to get faster. Or even depending on the type of person, why are you not going faster? So you need those guys, but you also need the atmosphere to be good enough that the advice is taken in the right way. And if you have that, you have a solid foundation for a team that has now grown through hardships, and team that is really investing not only in their racing, but also in each other as a team, as a unit.
A kind of counterpoint almost that I'd like to bring up with that, because it's not a disagreement as such, but when you are, as you mentioned, that third wheel in a team, or the fourth wheel in a team, or, however many drivers there are, if you are that slowest driver, yes, you are, consistently trying to push yourself to get closer to all of the drivers who are quicker than you. But do you not also think that once you get to the race, you've got to that point where, you've kind of realized, okay, I've found as much time as I can. All I have to do now is keep it on track, and maybe there's also an element of no real pressure being on you. No one in your team's expecting you to be able to pull out something magical. All you have to do is keep it on the track and put in decent lap times, and you can just sit back, relax maybe, and maybe that helps you go quicker as well, and just do what the team needs you to do without having to pull out, that A-tier performance, and you can just do a decent B-tier performance.
Yeah, that's true. That's true too. And you can be the sort of a team player or the glue in a team, in a sense that every team needs a glue, something that holds it together, holds these guys together. So maybe it can be the guy who may not be the fastest on track, but he's always, kind of running the operation a little bit. Maybe he's the guy who makes sure that everybody else gets awake. Maybe he's the guy who comes up with a good joke. Maybe he's the guy who, is just always nice and supportive. And even if, and it's funny, it's been observed in teams all over, in racing and in other team sports as well, other esports and other team sports. If you get rid of that one guy, that glue in your team, and you get in a guy who says half a second fast at the lap, your team might actually perform worse if the chemistry doesn't match anymore, if you lose that glue, if you lose that guy that keeps them together. And that's a funny thing to actually pinpoint, because you can't really analyze it. You can't really just look at the lap times or look at the clear reason of why something is going wrong for Team X. But it's actually chemistry issue, or it's an issue that is not visible on the fastest lap times, but it might be visible somewhere else, in cohesion, in concentration, whatever.
Here's someone we know, guys. Here's someone we know. We talked about the fast GTE cars, and I completely forgot that the DIS 45 was moved up into GTE as well. Those guys are P2 at the moment. I bet they've got Andy Kurtzen in the car right now, but Yannick Goddardsen and Kasper Hedegaard won't be much slower than him in this new Porsche. I really like the livery as well.
And actually, Peter, I'm really glad you brought up the GTE class, because I do really want to talk about the GTE class, because we saw last year it was one of the most underrepresented series, or one of the most underrepresented classes in the EEWC. But there are a lot of teams in that I'm really looking forward to see how they'd perform. We know that Musto took the EEWC GTE class title last year. We've got WOSR driving. They won at the Le Mans event. But aside from those GTE teams, we have got the likes of, as you mentioned, DIS, who were the GT3 class champions racing. You've got Viaductin racing in there. They were the hypercar class champions from last year, as well as One Move Esports. They were racing in the LMP2 class last season, and if I'm not mistaken, they won back in Matsusaka, and they're a very quick team as well. So I feel that there are at least 5 very, very high quality teams in that GTE class, and I'm so excited to see how they will be performing in the first round of the EEWC this weekend.
So
that was a car they're not ready for your pit stops. The DIS lab was going into the pit lane. I know they're racing from the same location as well, because what you see here is the drivers only called 45 DIS SR lab. That means that they're all racing from the same rig, actually.
So it's going to be either one of Andy Kurtzen or Yannick Gotthardsen or Kasper Hedegaard, as you mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. So, Yusuf, I'm gonna throw it to you for a little bit, because we had Peter's picks, I think we had my picks as well, and we had Ewan's picks earlier. And I'm gonna throw you right out of the commentary booth and straight under the bus or even the train with this one.
Okay. Throw me under the plane if you want.
Oh, I will. That's the best pick, because the plane's gonna be flying.
Exactly. Smart. You got to think outside of the box, or outside of the runway, as it were.
Exactly. So, Mr. Smart One, Mr. Smart Pants, Mr. I'm a member of Mensa. Are you actually a member of Mensa?
I don't know. I mean, an Illuminati never confirms their allegiances.
Oh, so that's why you have one of your that weird handshake thing going on.
Weird handshake thing? I don't recall ever showing you my handshake thing.
Oh, no. Weird handshake is what Illuminati and especially the Freemasons do, allegedly. I wouldn't know.
Look at how good he is.
I wouldn't know, because I'm definitely not an Illuminati.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's just a weird thing that your name shows up as a triangle with an eye for me.
Doesn't.
Okay.
No, it doesn't.
No, we got off topic a little bit there, I think.
Ever so slightly. Go on, throw me back under the train.
Yes, indeed. Who's gonna win the overall this season Endurance E-Racing World Championship 2021 in each class?
from the entries that we have so far, I'm going to go with the Pinsim Drillers to take the hypercar class. I think they're just the safest all-round bet. Very quick team.
Starting off easy.
Moving on to the LMP2. I mean, it's a big grid. We've got, 13 drivers in it. So, sorry, 14 teams, I should say, not 14 drivers. Who do I really think is quick? I mean, I was saying to Peter earlier on today that I really like Ramada Motorsport. They've got a very Japanese themed livery, which works with me. But of course, you know, they're like my heart's desire. They're not who I think will win. So I'm just taking a look through the list of drivers. Who do I think?
We got time, don't worry. I mean, it's a long practice session.
I'm just trying to remember from last season, because I don't think any of the teams in the LMP2 class, with the exception of maybe ProSim, were actually racing in the LMP2 class last season. Because DSR Nightmare were in the GT3 class, same for B32 Racing, E-Team Brit were in the hypercar class. Deuce's Motorsport Club, they were in GTE, but they had two teams, I think, so I'm not sure. This is a very tricky one. LMP2
Can I say on LMP2 that James Zuber just did like a 29 again? His fastest is a 20.6, so he's actually well ahead of the LMP2 class right now.
Fair enough. He is as quick as James Zuber. Yeah, you know what? Let's go with Pinsims and Drillers Esports. They're a very strong team, and I expect them to perform well in the LMP2 class. Also, James Zuber exists, so.
Yeah, he's like a cheat code, isn't he?
Exactly. You know, you see James Zuber, it's like a free Joker card, so I'll go with that. Now, GTE class. I already mentioned, you know, the biggest teams that I think are going to be up there. One Move Esports, Viaductin, Musto GD, DIS. And to be honest, I'm going to come out a little bold here. I think that the quality of competition in the GT3 class wasn't insanely strong. I'm not taking anything away from DIS for winning the title. I think they did a fantastic job winning pretty much every single race. But I think they will struggle. I think they'll be in the top 5, but I don't think they'll be able to take the win. And I think that's purely because despite Andy Kurtzen being insanely quick, I don't think the likes of Yannick Gottardsen and Kasper Hedegaard are quick enough to be able to match him. And I think they will let the team down just that little bit. So for that reason, I'm counting out DIS. For me, I think it's going to be between WOSR and Musto. And
Which Musto?
The Musto with my boy Manuel Biancalila, F1 esports driver, insanely quick.
You got it. No, you got it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just Biancalila. I mean, you got Tiziana Brioni, David Greco, Giuseppe De Fuoco. They're all insanely quick. But from what I saw last year at Le Mans, WOSR, they're just that little bit quicker, and I think they will be quick enough to take it. So I'm actually going to go with WOSR to take it from Musto and One Move P3, because One Move Esports are very, very quick.
They are. I mean, Mathieu de Crop, Roy de Munk. That's the kind of combination that is gonna be very difficult to match. But how are Gulam Maas, Ludovic Ferrut, and Gregory Ricon gonna match that exactly? That's gonna be a lot of things that we are wondering about. Do US74 they could produce a surprise because they got Barbosa, of course, Joao Barbosa, as one of the prime drivers that's gonna be in this series with real life experience as well. He's gonna be a big driving force behind them. They got a lot of experience, certainly, with Nick Newcomb, as we mentioned earlier. Nick Newcomb being about 75 years old, so been sim racing since 1945 or something.
Yeah,
so,
before sim rigs were even a thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Started
sim rigs were built of hay when he started racing.
Exactly. And it was just, being in a barn somewhere with a loose steering wheel.
Yeah.
And
Nick Newcomb created sim racing.
Exactly.
He's had more time than anyone to practice on R Factor 2 and every sim racing game that ever existed.
So that's gonna be why it's called why cambers are so important in setup.
I mean, we're just ask Nick Newcomer, he'll know all about it.
Yeah, exactly. GT3.
GT3. I've seen Teleforeningen last year. I didn't think they were that quick. DIS. I mean, I have a feeling this is, the B team of the 45 car in the GTE class. So I don't think they will be able to do too much. Simulator Esports, they've got Alvaro Incausti. He's decent, but I don't think, he's top level. I'm going to go with One Move Esports just because of the name behind them. I know One Move Esports are, a top tier team, and I think they'll be able to clinch it.
Yeah, the GT3 class, Peter was mentioning it earlier, this year, it's going to be interesting because it's going to be just like GT3 in real life, it's going to be a little bit more for the hobbyist level, for the start out level sim racer, so it's not going to be quite as hardcore as the GTE guys, and that's why a lot of teams were moved out of the GT3 class into the GTE or the LMP2 classes this year, so it's those so-called, what you would call the B players, or as I think the sportsmen, yes, the sportsmen, the gentleman racers.
Yes.
The gentleman racers, and also in case of Daniel Bryan, if he was driving, a B+ player, so to speak.
By the way, does anyone know anything about these guys from the 17 car? The
17 car.
Unison racing car. Alexei Mus,
717.
Alexander Sirkov, Yaroslav Krustalev.
Krustalev, I think. Alexei Myutsin, Alexander Zakirov, and Yaroslav Krustalev.
Yeah, and Nikolai Besurukov and Max Bonovich.
Oh, that sounds Eastern European, and if I have any experience whatsoever from Eastern Europe and sim racing, I know those guys are gonna be very fast.
I heard this Max Bonovich before in other relations. It sounds fast in the slight experience that I have.
I love it when we get to a point and we just hear a name and we just say, yeah, that sounds like a fast name. That sounds like a guy.
Yeah, but that's
be
because
simulator.
This Bonovich is ringing bells somewhere. I don't know if it's true or not. I wouldn't bet money on it.
You're thinking U2, and you're thinking of Bono.
Of Bono with the guitar?
No, with the
race engineer.
Oh, yeah. Is he particularly
much fast?
He's not fast in a car, is he? No.
But he drives in the name of love.
Yeah, he really does.
One more in now. Okay, we're gonna get copyright.
I don't even know the song.
He's having a beautiful day doing it.
Oh shit, I'm sorry, your singing's not that good to get us copyright strike.
Oh, that's true. That is actually true.
He's never scored more than 10 in the SingStar competition.
When you open up Shazam on your phone and you try to sing into it to see if you'll recognize a song from your singing.
Yeah, especially with, even though I like to think that I can speak okay English, but imagine using speech recognition software as a Finn.
I mean, it works usually.
Every time it just replies with some kind of heavy metal growling thing. No matter what you're singing, it is always the same heavy metal.
It's like those translation apps that you can get when you go to a different country. You just speak into it and it translates it into the language, and God only knows if it's doing it well. And it just turns out this phone's randomly insulting this person that you've happened to met and asking for directions.
And it's always gonna be the weirdest insult. Like, go piss into a transformer or something. That is actually a Finnish insult.
Is it actually? I mean, to be fair, Transformers is a pretty terrible movie.
No. A transformer box.
A transformer. I see.
Electrical.
Yes.
Heavy voltage equipment.
I don't know if you've ever seen this film, an Indian film called Three Idiots. It's amazing, and they have something like that in the film, which is absolute class. And it's where I learned that you can, well, I guess the right word is torture someone who's peeing on your door through some clever science.
Oops. Chris
Okay.
Gonzalez having a moment.
That's weird. That's indeed very weird. So, okay, we were talking earlier about fast drivers knowing, getting to the point where you don't know anything about the driver, and we have to do our research about those guys. Trust us, we will. We will be a lot smarter tomorrow and on Saturday. But right now, if you guys, Peter and Yusuf, both of you, if you had to pick one driver who is gonna lead their team to win, try to ignore their past achievements. Try to ignore their, racing
so what you're
their
saying
actual pace.
is
the fastest name.
I can't instantly say Manuel Biancalila.
Oh, that's a good one. That is a good one.
Because he's just a man. I go to my first ever sim racing commentary. He was racing in it all the way back in October 2018. So
You haven't been at this for a long time, have you?
I haven't. I'm still very young, unlike you, Oshin, who apparently has been in sim racing since the 20th century. But yeah, Manuel Biancalila holds a special place in my heart alongside the likes of Nicholas Longway and Jusparek.
That is very good, because I always think the Italian names, they just sound fast, but there are also some Eastern European names that usually sound very, very quick. But honestly, when you see names like Musto, they have usually all Italian teams.
Oh yes.
Musto GD Esports. So then you can pick from like the GDE class, you got the 54 and the 53 Mustos. And then you got guys like Giordano Valeriano, which is an okay entry in terms of fast drivers.
I mean, if you want, Monster do have one driver who last season anyway, in the Sprint Series race called Trevor Jackson, and he was Italian, so that's the least sounding Italian name within the Musto GD lineup.
Oh, there was also, I can't remember which team he was, but he was a pretty vocal member of this community. He was racing at least in 2019. Luca something. Can't remember who.
Lucas Blakely?
No. He was Italian. But he was the least Italian looking guy I ever met. Because I saw him, I'm like, oh, he must be one of the Finns. And I go to him like, terve. And he's looking like, what? That's all another form of hello.
Gesundheit.
Yeah.
It's weird that you mention that, because I'm half Italian, half Indian, but the hand gestures that you use in Indian culture to kind of say, would you like to come and eat? If you use that in an Italian culture, it means something completely different.
Oh yes, and the hand gestures in Italian, like you talk more with your hands than with your mouth.
Oh yeah, like my mum honestly hates it when I talk to her and she can't see my mouth. She's just so used to seeing hand animations all the time.
What a weird place. Like, Danish has nothing of that. It's just words, and you could stand still and be half frozen and people would still understand, and it will still be exactly the same.
Wait. Understand Danish?
Yes.
Because the Danish language, for those who don't know, imagine Swedish, if you ever heard Swedish. And then imagine talking that with a hot potato in your mouth. That's Danish.
And then imagine a language where at least half the letters you don't even say. And when you say them, they have different sounds depending on which word they're in. So that's to confuse you.
Yeah, good luck trying to learn that language.
Yep.
And so back when I was flying into Denmark in 2019, first time in Denmark actually, never been to Denmark before that, I was like, okay, I know a little bit of Swedish because it's a mandatory language to learn in Finland in schools because of history and blah blah blah. So I know a little bit of Swedish, and I know Denmark is similar-ish to Swedish in a sense that they are both Scandinavian languages. That's about it. Like the pronunciation is different, but some of the words are similar enough in that I can see a Danish word and I can roughly guesstimate what it means. Like I have a basic idea. but I know that the language sounds weird. So I'm gonna be going into the plane and I'm gonna be like, okay, I got 1.5 hour flight from Helsinki to Copenhagen. And I have that time to get accustomed to learning Danish. So I'm preparing to do this mental preparation of dealing with Danish for half a week.
Wow, you
And
have
I'm
to
sitting in the
learn
plane.
Danish.
Danish, yes, and I'm sitting in the plane. I'm going like, okay, I must get used to this. I must get used to this. But I still got 1.5 hours. Better enjoy this. And then the captain of the plane starts speaking, and he starts in Danish. Bigger Danish captain on a plane, on a flight to Copenhagen, and I'm like, well.
On behalf of my countrymen, I'm sorry.
No, the plane didn't crash. It's all right. Still, I'm not sorry to you. I'm sorry to everybody else.
Now, Ocean, while you've been talking about how Danes love speaking with hot potatoes in their mouth, I've been looking through the list of names and trying to work out, which name sounds like a fast driver. I mean, excluding all of the Italian and Spanish names, because they just have a huge unfair advantage, right? For some reason, Mark Wiemer's really sticking out to me in the number 67 Volante racing car.
Oh yeah, Mark Wiemer. Because you can even say that in a way that Mark Wiemer. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That is a good one. Who is really striking my eye? I actually lost him on the list. Oh, here we go. The 68 E-Team Brit, who have a great story about them. Max Spooner. Whenever you have a driver, I think using Max in a given name is almost cheating when you talk about fast, because guy named Max is always going to be fast.
I mean, if we're going down that route, let's talk about the glam race in the 404 car in the GT3 class. Lee Russell. I mean, Russell, what more do you want?
Yeah, and it's Lee Russell too, so it's gonna be like.
Remember I'm sorry to
his
interrupt,
uncle.
but you remember, guys, you remember the American Formula One driver Scott Speed?
Yeah.
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 Oh,
How about if you do that Max and then your last name Speed?
no, but there's even better. There was this.
Max Speed.
Yeah, there was this Kiwi, a lower Formula driver, and I think he raced on Formula E or something briefly as well, and he raced in the A1 Nations Cup thing that was going on, the World Cup of Racing or whatever, the Nations Cup thing. Chris Wonder Drift. And I always remember the late 2000s, early 2010s dream team or rather late 2000s dream team of Formula drivers, which would have been 3-car team, and it would have been Will Power, Chris Wonder Drift, and Scott Speed.
I mean, if we go on, if you continue talking about drivers in the Endurance E-Racing World Championship whose names sound like racing drivers, we've also got in the 999 Abstinio Force Polonia car in the LMP2 class, Mika Hakimi. And I think that's about as close as you can get to Mika Hakkinen.
Oh, that's true. I noticed, but you say that, but as a Finn, of course, when you talk about being close to Finnish names, that didn't even register for me. I think that's a very Japanese name. I'm looking at the name and thinking, oh, he must be Japanese.
Maybe, he might be.
Because Mika Häkkinen would be said like that, Häkkinen, and I'm looking at that and thinking Hakimi, and it sounds different.
Finnish always sounds like at the beginning of the word you're very enthusiastic, and then you sort of completely lose interest.
I mean, to be fair, this is literally someone whose idol was Mika Hakkinen, but also like Kimi Räikkönen. And I was like, Mika Hakimi.
Yeah,
and there you go.
Mika Hakimi. Yeah.
There you go.
And then if you say it in Finnish, you would say Mika Hakimi. And you wouldn't, but Mika Hakimi, you would go like, what Kimi, it translated.
What do you want? I know what I am doing.
Oh, this is now, I think you are the 3rd or 4th person who dares to do a Kimi Räikkönen impression while I am in the booth.
I'll do it all day, all night long if you want, Ocean.
It's the same for everyone.
It was a good race, but I go home.
You need to do the troll thing too, like you need to talk like this and then sound very uninterested and then it becomes
you sound very much like Kimmy.
unintelligible.
For a second, I'm starting to think that you're Finnish.
No, it's not over yet.
Oh no?
No, I'm not finished.
I get it. Not finished.
Yes, but we are actually from the same city with Kimi.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, from Espoo, both of us.
You know what? I'm not letting you get away with that. Do you know what my claim to fame is?
What?
Not only have I casted GTR 24/8, but I also used to go to school and play tennis with George Russell.
Oh, that is a good one. That is a good one. That's even better than my claim to fame of Mika Häkkinen following me on Twitter.
Wait, does he actually?
Yes, it's the real account.
Well, is Mika Häkkinen listening right now? Can we get him in the booth?
I don't think he is, but if you are, tule tänne, I guess.
I have no idea what you said, but...
Come here.
Okay.
I actually froze a little bit. I got really awkward, and then I froze a little bit, and I'm like, Finnish, how does that work again?
I mean, to be honest, if I knew I was about to talk on live broadcast to Mika Häkkinen, I'd get a bit nervous as well.
Yeah. That is true. That is true. Also, we are at midnight in Finland, which means we are, I think, at the end of practice number 1 soon.
Yep, it's almost 10 p.m. for me, which means it's well past Oshin's bedtime now.
we actually haven't planned any further practice sessions, so this was this is kind of all that she wrote for tonight.
Well, we do have qualifying tomorrow.
Yes.
7 p.m. GMT for the start of qualifying 1, and then 7 p.m. CEST or European time for the start of the first qualifying session.
That's
and then
only
9:30
CET now, because it's not Central European summertime. It's just Central European time.
It's not my fault. Someone wrote on the document CEST, and I just read it, and I was like, "Wait,
that's
no,
bad.
It's not summer yet." I mean,
It is not,
maybe in the southern hemisphere, but not in the
I
north.
will laugh so hard if the viewers can't actually hear our producer Peter right now.
I've
they?
always wondered that.
Yeah,
I always
they
wondered.
can.
Okay, they can hear you. Okay, that's good, because that would otherwise it would have been sounding like Yusuf arguing with himself.
To be fair, I
But
do
he
that
does
as well.
He does that.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, Oshin, you should hear me try to do maths on stream. It's amazing. It's wondrous.
That's the first thing. I've done commentary since 2015. And the first thing I learned about doing commentary is never, ever try to do maths live on air, because you will fail inevitably unless you got a big boot, and then you can have one guy who says, okay, I'm gonna count that, and then they focus on counting that instead of having to speak, because if you have to speak and count something at the same time, it's gonna go wrong.
It's one of the first guys I ever co-commentated with. He had that rule as well, which is never talk about maths on stream. And it's funny because both of us love our maths, and we, both pretty much. Well, he does maths at university now. I almost took it at uni. So considering that we both love maths, we're just against doing maths on stream. But I remember one time I had to do some awards on a stream, and I had to you know how you build up the suspense by starting off with 5th place and then working your way up to first, right? So I got out my sheet and I was like, right, I'm ready to go. And I said, in 5th place, blah blah blah. His name wasn't blah blah blah, just to clarify, but
okay, yeah.
You get the idea. So I was like, blah blah blah, and then I looked at the sheet and I realized this guy, blah blah blah, he was actually the award winner. And at this point, I just had no idea what to do. Yeah.
That's bad. That's
was
honestly
bad.
How did you come back from that? How did you come back from that?
I didn't.
So that's how you ended up here.
Yes. John was listening and he thought, this guy can't even count backwards from 5. Let's sign him up. So here I am. But I think I said something along the lines of, no, it's not blah blah blah. It's this guy. But then I think people might have thought, okay, blah, blah, blah might have been somewhere else. But then as I got, to second place and I didn't say blah, 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 everyone was like, blah, 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 he won, didn't he?
But it's okay. You have to owe up to those times. Like one time, my first commentary, when I was doing my first commentary in Finnish, it was the start of a new series, the first ever Finnish sim racing championship thing. So it was kind of a big hyped up deal, and that was also my first Finnish commentary. So yay, I was doing the color commentary because the guy who was doing the broadcast needed somebody to talk because he was directing and he was leading the commentary.
Yeah.
But he needed somebody else. So I was like, okay, I can jump in. I said it as a joke on TeamSpeak a couple of days before the broadcast, like I can jump in, ha ha ha. And then it was like, okay. And then we got through the ropes on the day before, and then I did my first broadcast, and it went okay until I was going through the results. And basically, the guy who won it is called Klaus Kivekäs. You may have actually heard of him. He's a pretty good sim racer a couple of years back. Was a pretty big name. Anyway, Klaus Kivekäs. And I was, because Finnish uses conjugations. A lot of conjugations with the words. So in English you would say for Klaus Kivekäs, that was the first win.
Yes.
In English you would say that. In Finnish you would say Klaus Kivekkäälle. And that's for Klaus Kivekäs. You would say Klaus Kivekkäälle. For some reason my brain froze up and I said Klaus Kivekselle.
Okay, which means?
Kivekäs is a Rocky or something. Kives is Finnish for, how do I say it in a broadcast-friendly way? The bits that are the male tennis balls.
Okay, right, yes.
Yes.
I do like tennis.
Yes, the male tennis balls.
The grapes.
Right.
The grapes, exactly. So I called the guy that on a live broadcast accidentally. The worst thing is that I caught it immediately. I was like, nobody noticed, right? I was trying to hold back laughter.
Yeah.
And I was like, nobody noticed, right? I had the Twitch chat open.
The thing is, if you laugh
they
at
were
that
standing
situation,
at that point.
I mean, if you laugh at that situation, everyone then thinks that you've definitely done it on purpose and you're trying to take the mick out of him.
Yeah, exactly, because I noticed. I noticed I tried to correct him and I was like, crap, I froze, and then I laughed a little bit and then I went through the results because I had no other option, while the director is laughing in my ear, even though he's muted on broadcast, he's laughing. Yeah. He's absolutely losing it in my ear, and I'm like, okay, I'm going on with the broadcast, blah, 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 trying to go with the rest of it, and then as the broadcast shut down, first thing I do, I contact the guy, I'm like, I'm sorry. And he's like, it's okay, as long as my parents weren't watching.
Parents watching?
I don't know, I never heard the full extent of it, but he's kind of like a shy guy. So he's kind of the shy, quiet guy, as you think of a Finnish stereotype. So it's really hard to get whether he's angry or not, because he's always looking at you with those same dead eyes.
Okay.
So...
I mean, I'd say like Kimi Räikkönen, but I've seen Kimi be angry a couple of times. Mugello last year, for instance.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's first broadcast mishaps, but those happen and you get through it. So if any one of you is an aspiring commentator, then remember that screw-ups happen and you will definitely screw up sometime. Instead of being scared, think about it and think of how to save it. Turning it into a joke is always a good idea. Continuing on is even a better idea, unless your color commentator or the guy you're working with is a complete beep, in which case they will cast the spotlight on you at that point.
Yes. If it's a case of, it happens, for example, if we're doing sim racing, if it's happening in the middle of a battle, you make a mistake, just ride with it. Ignore your mistake and just keep on going, because it's a high tense situation. You need to keep your flow. But if it's just happening like now, I say, we're riding on board with a Varga sim racing and it turns out to be Pro Sim, then just say, sorry, that's not Varga sim racing, that's the Pro Sim car.
Exactly.
That's me messing it up for you because I changed.
Yes, blame your producer for looking at the wrong car.
Yes.
Always blame the producer, exactly.
Yes.
Never mind that those are the guys who are paying your salary.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter.
Because the thing is, if you blame your producer, your co-commentator will usually get on board and blame the producer as well.
That's true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And ignore the fact that it's usually the producer who is doing the most work. We just show up here, commentate, try to look up a couple of teams and drivers if we can be bothered. And then meanwhile, Peter will be here, who's producing for us. We'll have to do like 7 jobs at the same time while being awake for 50 hours in a row, operating on pure caffeine and the strength of his willpower.
The strength of what power?
Making me feel bad now.
Willpower. I know. You should feel bad.
Another race car driver.
Yeah.
Another race car driver.
Okay.
That is a real race car driver, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I mentioned him earlier. Willpower.
Yeah.
Willpower. I've heard of Willpower.
Yeah, he used to race in IndyCar. I don't know. I think he still does.
Wait, which team is Willpower in?
Whatever team he wills.
The team that has the most powerful engine. We can make puns for days.
You know, okay. I'm not upset that you made that pun. I'm just upset that I didn't think of it first.
Whatever team he wills, that's all. Of course, very easy.
He's an Australian champion motorsport driver who currently competes in the IndyCar series driving for Team Penske.
Mm-hmm. So not even a bad team.
He's the 2014 IndyCar Series champion, and as of 2015, the most successful road and street course race winner in the series history with 19 wins with Scott Dixon. Power won the 2018 Indianapolis 500. So we can tie it into tonight's broadcast. We are, of course, here at Indianapolis. It is still the first practice session of Endurance E-Racing World Championship 2021, and we are just about to conclude it with a couple of teams still out on the track, but otherwise, I think we are done with it.
Yeah, I think we are, Ocean. You know, we've had a brief chat, talked about some teams, talked about how teams would be approaching this, you know, talked about who has our fast names that sound like Mika Häkkinen and just other random F1 drivers. So overall, I think it's been a bit of fun.
It has been a lot of fun, and that fun is going to continue tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central European Time, 8 p.m. Eastern European Time, which is in Finland, and 6 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, when the first qualifying from Indianapolis Motor Speedway is gonna come live, and we're gonna find out who takes the first pole of the season. So until then, I've been Ossian Pohakka. Joining me tonight has been Yrjön O'Leary, Nick Newcomb, Yasif Bin Suhail, and Peter Munkholm as well has been in the booth talking at some points. This has been a fine evening. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Don't miss it.
breathe, breathe.